Chapter 2379. That young man. Who is he? Just a servant following behind him has such powerful strength. Lunging said solemnly. That's right. He's too strong. With just a casual strike of his palm, he killed the powerhouse at the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage beside sect leader, before he even had a chance to react. Hong Yin nodded. She could not help but feel helpless when she recalled the scene earlier. That young man is at least a 3 tribulation bodiless celestial. At this moment, the burly middle-aged man standing behind Gan Ru Yen, the companion of the skinny middle-aged man, said with a grim expression on his face. Among the people present on the scene, his judgment was the most authoritative. After all, even Zifeng, the strongest high-ranking official from Zoroastrianism, was inferior to him in terms of cultivation base. Because of this, everyone firmly believed in his judgment. Heavens! A 3 tribulation bodiless celestial? Yes, he's at least a 3 tribulation bodiless celestial. In other words, that middle-aged man might be a 4 tribulation bodiless celestial, or even a 5 tribulation bodiless celestial. Who's that young man to have a 3 tribulation bodiless celestial as his servant? The high-ranking officials from Zoroastrianism discussed among themselves. Their eyes were filled with fear and dread. Initially, I thought eminent celestials were the strongest in the Tao martial saint land. However, it seems like eminent celestials are nothing compared to bodiless celestials. In front of those powerful bodiless celestials, even eminent celestials are insignificant. I didn't expect someone who failed the heavenly tribulation would have a chance to become a bodiless celestial. The 4 guardians of Zoroastrianism looked at Gan Ru Yen. Ru Yen let him know. Qinghua looked at Gan Ru Yen and said, "Let's wait for a while." Gan Ru Yen shook her head. "I have 10 days. I'll think about it. What's there to consider? Human lives are at stake." Qinghua said anxiously. "What if he is no match for them?" Gan Ru Yen and Qinghua looked at each other. Their beautiful faces tightened slightly, and they smiled sadly. If Duan Lingtian wasn't a match for those two, wouldn't she be harming Duan Lingtian if she rashly called Duan Lingtian back? Not to mention she liked Duan Lingtian now. Even if she didn't like Duan Lingtian, it was impossible for her to harm Duan Lingtian just to survive. Duan Lingtian was her sister's husband and her niece's father. Ru Yen. Qinghua wanted to say something, but he was interrupted by Gan Ru Yen. "Master, you don't have to persuade me. I've already said I'll think about it." This was the first time Gan Ru Yen had interrupted Qinghua since she became his disciple. As soon as she finished speaking, she flew into Qinghua's cultivation place without waiting for his reply. As for the place where she cultivated, it was currently occupied by the 2 mysterious experts. She did not dare to rashly barge in. Who knew if they would be displeased by this? Perhaps they would not kill her within 10 days. However, she did not want them to vent their anger on the other members of Zoroastrianism. She was now the sect leader of Zoroastrianism. She could not watch the members of Zoroastrianism die. Sigh. Qinghua was not angered by Gan Ru Yan's earlier words. This was because he knew Gan Ru Yan very well. He could not help but sigh inwardly. This girl is too kind. Lord Guardian. At this time, one of the vice-sect leaders of Zoroastrianism looked at Qinghua and asked solemnly, "If Lord Sect Leader insists on not informing Lord Duan Lingtian about this matter, those 2 people will definitely kill Lord Sect Leader in 10 days. After that they might even vent their anger on Zoroastrianism." The vice-sect leader of Zoroastrianism voiced the thoughts of most of the high-ranking members of Zoroastrianism present on the scene. All of a sudden, their gazes landed on Qinghua, as if they were waiting for Qinghua's response. "What? Are all of you worried that sect leader will harm our Zoroastrianism?" Qinghua was already in a bad mood. When he heard the vice-sect leader of Zoroastrianism's words, he could not help but show his anger and rebuke him loudly. When Qinghua rebuked the vice-sect leader of Zoroastrianism, the burly middle-aged man who was about to follow Gan Ru Yen turned around and glared at the vice-sect leader of Zoroastrianism coldly. "Please show mercy." Just as Protector Zifeng sensed the commotion from the burly middle-aged man's side, he subconsciously shouted. Bang! A loud explosion rang in the air. The burly middle-aged man had struck out with his palm. Instantly, a palm print shot out and killed the vice-sect leader of Zoroastrianism, before anyone could react. This scene was very similar to the scene where the middle-aged man behind the mysterious young man killed the burly middle-aged man's companion with a single strike. Whether it was the middle-aged man who killed the skinny middle-aged man, or the burly middle-aged man who killed the vice-sect leader of Zoroastrianism, it was as easy as blowing off dust. If anyone dares to disrespect my master again, they'll end up like him. The burly middle-aged man entered Qing Hua's cultivation place under the fearful gaze of the high-ranking officials from Zoroastrianism. They only regained their senses when the burly middle-aged man's figure disappeared from their sight. All of them gasped. Qing Hua was stunned for a moment before he smiled wryly. Although the burly middle-aged man had vented his anger by killing the vice-sect leader of Zoroastrianism, as a guardian of Zoroastrianism, he felt it was a pity that the Zoroastrianism had lost a powerhouse at the sixth form of the Saint Celestial stage. However, he knew it was not his place to interfere with the burly middle-aged man's actions. The burly middle-aged man only acknowledged one master, his direct disciple, Gan Ruyen. As for the other three guardians of Zoroastrianism, they looked at each other before they shook their heads and sighed helplessly. As for the other high-ranking officials in the fire worship sect, they remained silent. None of them dared to speak. Let's disperse. Upon hearing Zifeng's words, the high-ranking officials from Zoroastrianism finally dispersed, as though a heavy burden had been lifted from their shoulders. At this moment, no matter how sullen they felt, they did not dare to say a word. Guardian Qing Hua. After most of the people had left, Zifeng looked at Qing Hua with a solemn expression and said solemnly, "Although his words are a little frightening, it's very likely that it'll come true. Guardian Qing Hua Yu." When Guardian Ling Tian left, he gave me a communication jade token. Duan Ling Tian muttered to himself. Qing Hua naturally knew what Zifeng wanted to say, and he bluntly interrupted Zifeng. He seemed to have guessed since the beginning that even if that little girl, Ru Yan, encountered some sort of trouble, it was very unlikely that she would look for him. So, he left me a voice transmission jade slip, and told me to inform him through it, if anything happened. The eyes of the three guardians of Zoroastrianism, including Zifeng, lit up when Qing Hua took out a communication jade token that Duan Ling Tian had inscribed himself. It could be used to transmit his voice through the communication jade token. Guardian Ling Tian. After that, Qing Hua told Duan Ling Tian everything about the mysterious young man and his servant before he sent it to Duan Ling Tian through the jade token in his hand. "Ruyen, don't blame master. He's doing this for your own good." Qing Hua could not help but sigh inwardly as he crushed the communication jade token. Moreover, I've also told Ling Tian that the mysterious young man's servant is at least a 3 tribulation bodiless celestial. I've also told him not to come back if he's not confident. In the northern region, on the snow-capped peaks all year round, Duan Ling Tian and Kerr stood side by side in a pavilion on a vast stone platform halfway up the mountain. They were admiring the beautiful snowy scenery outside. Naturally, the two women who were having a snowball fight were also admiring the scenery. "Auntie Tian Wu, I hit you again. Ling's amazing. Auntie Tian, Wu won't go easy on you next time. You have to be careful. Come on. I'm not afraid." Duan Ling Tian and Kerr could not help but turn to look at the source of the voices. Ling seems to like Sister Tian Wu a lot, Kerr said with a smile on her face. Yes. Duan Ling Tian nodded with a smile on his face. However, in the next moment, he seemed to have sensed something. The smile on his face froze immediately. Whoosh. At the same time, he took out a jade token. Whoosh. As soon as he took out the jade token, a translucent ray of light shot toward him from the southwest direction and entered the jade token in his hand. It's a message from Zoroastrianism. Kerr had also noticed the commotion at Duan Ling Tian's side. She immediately looked at Duan Ling Tian and asked, "Brother Tian, is it from sister?" A worried expression appeared on Kerr's face when she asked this question. Crack! As soon as Kerr finished speaking, Duan Ling Tian crushed the jade token in his hand. An old voice rang in the air immediately. It's guardian Qinghua. Duan Lingtian's eyes narrowed when he heard the voice. Duan Lingtian narrowed his eyes when he heard Qinghua's words. The mysterious young man has a servant who's at least a 3 tribulation bodiless celestial? Moreover, he knows about the Zoroastrianism and Gan Ruyan's relationship with me? That person should be someone from the Dragon Clan. He must be the person behind Li Bing whom I killed that day. However, didn't Sandao say the dragons wouldn't interfere if I killed Li Bing? Duan Lingtian's expression darkened immediately. Sister. Chapter 2380. Duan Lingtian had just returned to the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land not long ago. Moreover, he did not have much interaction with bodiless celestials when he was still in the upper province. For this reason, it was not difficult for Duan Lingtian to guess what was going on when he received the message from Qinghua. The mysterious young man who had a servant with a cultivation base at the 3 tribulation bodiless celestial was most likely from the dragons. Moreover, the young man had come to investigate him for killing Li Bing. Duan Lingtian was not surprised that the mysterious young man knew he was the one who killed Li Bing. After all, when he killed Li Bing, he had sensed the aura of the mirror image talisman on Li Bing's body. Therefore, he knew the scene of Li Bing's death was likely transmitted to another person through the minor-major mirror image talisman. That person was most likely from the dragons who supported Li Bing. According to Sandao, after the bodiless celestials from the 3 great sects are grounded by the Dragon Clan, unless they find a backer in the Dragon Clan, it's very difficult for them to leave the Dragon Clan. Of course, I'm only leaving the Dragon Clan temporarily. Sandao speculates that Li Bing must have a backer in the Dragon's sect. That's why he's able to leave the Dragon's sect temporarily. As for his arrogance in the Zoroastrianism, it's probably because he did it behind the backs of his backers in the Dragon's sect. Based on the agreement between the Dragon's sect and Senior Feng Qingyang, Li Bing's death can only be considered as a dispute between the Dragon's sect and the 7 Absolutes sect. The dragons have no reason to interfere. For this reason, Duan Lingtian was puzzled. Why was the Dragon's sect looking for him? Could it be that the Dragon's sect had forgotten the agreement between the Dragon's sect and Senior Feng Qingyang? Ke, don't worry. I won't let anything happen to your sister. Duan Lingtian looked at the worried Ke and said, I'll go find Sandao now. As soon as Duan Lingtian finished speaking, he was about to leave when Ke called out to him. Brother Tian. Duan Lingtian looked at Ke in confusion. Brother Tian, Qinghua also said in the message, if you don't have the confidence, don't return to Zoroastrianism. Ke looked at Duan Lingtian and said seriously. Although she was worried about her sister's safety, she was also worried about her man's safety. If she had to use her man's life to exchange for her sister's life, she would rather die than agree. Don't worry, I know what to do. Duan Lingtian comforted Ke with a smile before he left to look for his servant, Chun Sandao, Chun Yiru. Ke was the only one left standing in the same spot. She looked dejected. I'm still too weak. This was not the first time Ke despised her strength. As she muttered to herself, she seemed to have thought of something. Her eyes were filled with determination. I've only tried that method once. However, I couldn't take it anymore. This time, I must persevere. As long as I persevere, she experimented a few times and mastered the trick in a short period of time. However, she did not try it again. In Kuer's heart, this was because the pain was too great to prevent others from worrying about her. And the price she had to pay was too high. Even her man, it was too much for her to bear. And her sister, did not have the courage to try it again. Did not know about today, this secret. She had made up her mind to burn her soul again to increase her cultivation base. And one day, in a short unintentional thought of hers actually caused her soul to not be like a useless person. She could still remember the excruciating pain that came from her soul. She cared about although the burning of her soul did not last long. After my discovered that her cultivation base had increased tremendously. There seemed to be some memory fragments in my memory by several levels. And those memory fragments were all scenes that I had never seen before. The burning of her soul to increase her cultivation burned her soul and strength quickly. And the memory fragments that appeared in her mind, Kuer couldn't help but guess. Perhaps it has something to do with the fact that the former sect leader of Zoroastrianism, Tang Xian, mentioned that I'm the reincarnation of a goddess. Back then, the former sect leader of Zoroastrianism, Tang Xian, had sworn on the lightning penalty oath to confirm that she was the reincarnation of a goddess. Even if she did not dare to believe it, she had no choice but to believe it. Perhaps, when my soul burns to a certain extent, I'll be able to recover all my memories from my previous life. After confirming that she was the reincarnation of a goddess, Kerr had been very curious about her previous life. She wanted to know what kind of person she was in her previous life, why she was reincarnated, and why she was reincarnated in this mundane realm. She also wanted to know what her cousin from her previous life was trying to do. It was as though a seed of curiosity had been planted in her heart. It took root and sprouted, and it could not be stopped. This time, I must persevere for a while. While I'm improving my cultivation base, I'll be able to recover more of my memories from my previous life. A hint of determination flashed in Kerr's eyes as she left the pavilion and returned to her room to cultivate. It doesn't matter if I recover my memories from my previous life or not. I'm still Kerr, Brother Tion's wife, my sister's sister, and Seeling's mother. After returning to her room, Kerr was prepared to undergo the excruciating process of burning her soul again. At the same time, she kept repeating this thought in her heart, her willpower incomparably firm. The reason she was so determined was because she was worried. She was worried that she would lose her memories of this life after she recovered all her memories from her previous life. Kerr sat cross-legged on her bed with her eyes closed. At first, her beautiful cheeks were calm, and her body was almost motionless as she maintained her cross-legged sitting posture. However, soon after, her body began to tremble slightly. Her originally calm and beautiful face also began to twitch, and the frequency of it became more and more exaggerated. In the end, she was even sweating like rain. Ding, ding, ding. Unknowingly, Kerr was gritting her teeth so hard that it made a clattering sound. In the end, there was even a trace of blood at the corner of Kerr's mouth. All of this was just Kerr's current appearance. At this moment, Kerr felt as though her soul was about to be completely burned away. Her consciousness was gradually becoming blurry. She was almost annihilated again and again. However, in the end, she gritted her teeth and persevered. During this process, Kerr's memory was filled with more fragments. In these fragments, there was a peerless beauty. As long as she was around, no matter if it was a man or a woman, there would be few who would not look at her. She was like the brightest star in the night sky, constantly attracting people's attention. Moreover, this peerless beauty was not a flower vase. She had the power to overturn the heavens and the earth, topple the mountains and overturn the seas. With just a wave of her hand, the sky and the earth would change color. The sun and the moon shone brightly. A forest with a circumference of 100,000 miles was turned into a huge crater. This is me from my past life. When Kerr saw these fragments, she was shocked. The peerless beauty in the fragments possessed a strength that she did not even dare to think about in the past. Even the strongest 9 tribulation bodiless celestial in the mundane realm would not be able to compare to her strength, right? When she saw the scene of that peerless beauty making her move in the memory fragment, Kerr was shocked, and at the same time, a thought involuntarily surfaced in her mind. Persevere, persevere. As long as I persevere, no one in the mundane realm will be able to threaten Brother Tion. No one will be able to threaten my family. As her consciousness turned blurry again and again, Kerr's willpower grew stronger and stronger. Her thirst for power was unprecedentedly strong. At this moment, Duan Lingtian was unaware of the pain Kerr was in. He was also unaware that Kerr could lose her consciousness at any time. Otherwise, he would have stopped Kerr at all costs. Master, as far as I know, the members of the dragon tribe always keep their promises. Moreover, this is an agreement between their ancestor and senior Feng Qingyang. Logically speaking, even if they're dissatisfied with Li Bing's decision, they can only grit their teeth and swallow their anger because they're in the wrong. Chen Yiru said solemnly after he learned the truth from his master, Duan Lingtian. Based on what you've said, the mysterious young man is most likely a member of the dragons. Chen Yiru said. What do you think we should do now? Duan Lingtian asked. Go to Zoroastrianism. Stop him. Tell him to go back to the dragons. A light flashed in Chen Yiru's eyes as he coldly snorted. If news of Li Bing being killed by you and this dragon clan member coming to avenge Li Bing spreads, the dragon clan will go down in infamy for thousands of years. Chapter 23.
For this reason,
the
does
dragons
this mean
won't
they
dare
won't
to
dare to
avenge
touch
Li
me
Bing
even if they're
unless
stronger
they have
than me?
absolute confidence
Duan
in sealing the
Lingtian
news.
narrowed
His eyes as they flashed coldly. He had come to ask Chenyi Ru because he did not know the strength of the dragons. His servants were all 3 tribulation bodiless celestials or stronger. Who knew if the person was a 6 tribulation bodiless celestial or a 7 tribulation bodiless celestial? If it was a 6 tribulation bodiless celestial, Duan Lingtian might be able to deal with him even if he used all his techniques. However, if it was a 7 tribulation bodiless celestial, he would not be a match for the person even if he used all his strength. Although he was worried about Gan Ruyan's safety, he did not want to recklessly throw his life away. As long as they can't guarantee that news of them killing you won't spread, they won't dare to touch you at all. Chenyi Ru said confidently. In that case, let's make a trip to Zoroastrianism. I'd like to see where the people from the dragons get their courage from to ignore the agreement between the dragons and Senior Feng Qingyang. Duan Lingtian said in a deep voice. Then, Duan Lingtian brought Chenyi Ru along and left without saying a word to anyone. After listening to Chenyi Ru's words, Duan Lingtian knew he would not encounter any danger, so he did not have to worry about anything. Although it was a long journey from the northern region to the western region of Zoroastrianism, with Duan Lingtian and Chenyi Ru's speed, it would only take them half a day to arrive. For this reason, Duan Lingtian felt there was no need for him to greet the others. After all, they would be back soon. Swoosh, swoosh. 2 figures flew past the sky above the Zoroastrianism's base. The speed of these 2 figures was so fast that even Zi Feng, the strongest person in the fire worship sect, could not catch a glimpse of them. The owners of these 2 figures were none other than Duan Lingtian and his servant who had traveled for half a day and were covered in dust. Duan Lingtian led the way while Chenyi Ru followed closely behind. Whoosh! Once again returning to Zoroastrianism and entering the holy land of Zoroastrianism, Duan Lingtian paused and stared at the floating island behind the clouds above the holy island without any emotion. Whoosh! Chenyi Ru also came to a halt and stood respectfully behind Duan Lingtian. Dragons! I, Duan Lingtian, am here. Suddenly, Duan Lingtian opened his mouth. He did not deliberately suppress his voice. Once he spoke, his voice spread throughout the holy land of Zoroastrianism, and even the entire Zoroastrianism base. Duan Lingtian. It's Duan Lingtian. He's back? Didn't he just leave a month ago? Why are you back so soon? I think he said something about 2 dragons. Dragons? There are dragons in our Zoroastrianism? In the Zoroastrianism base, the elders and disciples of Zoroastrianism were confused when they heard Duan Lingtian's words. They had no idea what was going on. Even the high-ranking officials of Zoroastrianism, who had witnessed the servant at the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage being killed by a palm strike from Gan Ruyan, the sect leader of Zoroastrianism, were surprised by Duan Lingtian's return. Dragons? Duan Lingtian said those 2 are from the dragons? They're from the dragons. I remember when they came a few days ago. They only said they were looking for Duan Lingtian. They didn't reveal their identities at all. I didn't expect them to be from the dragons. The dragons have bodiless celestials as well. Moreover, that 3 tribulation bodiless celestial is only a servant. That young man must have a high status in the dragons, right? Or perhaps, his own strength far surpasses that of the servant by his side. The high-ranking officials of Zoroastrianism were shocked by the identities of the 2 people. They were even more shocked by the fact that the 3 tribulation bodiless celestial was only a servant. In their opinion, those who were able to make a 3 tribulation bodiless celestial or stronger a servant were not ordinary people. For example, Duan Lingtian had a 4 tribulation bodiless celestial as a servant. On the other hand, Duan Lingtian was the successor of the Fog Rain progeny, the first absolute of the 7 absolute sect. He was also the sect leader of the 7 absolute sect. Moreover, he was strong enough to easily kill a 4 tribulation bodiless celestial, even though he was only an eminent celestial. Previously, the ancestor of Zoroastrianism, Li Bing, a four-tribulation bodiless celestial, had died in the hands of Duan Lingtian. When I think about the ancestor, I can't help but recall that when the ancestor saw Duan Lingtian was much stronger than him, he seemed to have said that Duan Lingtian was from the dragons. Could it be that the people from the dragon clan are here to avenge the ancestor? A golden flame elder of Zoroastrianism speculated. As soon as he finished speaking, two voices rang in the air. Bah! The ancestor is from Zoroastrianism. There's no way he's from the dragons. Based on your words, doesn't that mean the ancestor has betrayed Zoroastrianism and joined the dragons? That's impossible. This was one of the voices. Indeed, it's possible. After all, the ancestor had said he was from the dragons. I'm sure everyone, including me, has heard it clearly. Moreover, if the ancestor has really betrayed Zoroastrianism and joined the dragons, it's only logical that the dragons would seek revenge from Duan Lingtian. This was another voice. Naturally, the high-ranking officials of Zoroastrianism who had spoken did not expect this. Although their ancestor had joined the dragons, he did not betray Zoroastrianism. This was because even Zoroastrianism was supported by the dragons and the phoenixes. The ancestor is dead. It's meaningless to say anything more. Let's see if Duan Lingtian can deal with the two dragons. As this voice spread, the high-ranking officials of Zoroastrianism no longer harped on the topic. They immediately flew in the direction where Duan Lingtian's voice came from. In the blink of an eye, they were near Duan Lingtian. Duan Lingtian is there, and his servant Chini Ru is there too. When they saw Duan Lingtian, the eyes of many high-ranking officials of Zoroastrianism lit up. There were also some high-ranking officials of Zoroastrianism who looked gloomily at Duan Lingtian. If looks could kill, Duan Lingtian would have been killed many times over. Among these people, the former believed that the ancestor of Zoroastrianism, Li Bing, had betrayed Zoroastrianism. The latter refused to believe that Li Bing had betrayed Zoroastrianism. Because of this, their attitude towards Duan Lingtian, the person who had killed Li Bing, was completely different. Why are you here? Soon the leader of Zoroastrianism, Gan Ruyen, arrived. When she saw Duan Lingtian, she was stunned. Obviously, she did not know why Duan Lingtian had suddenly come back. She clearly did not inform him. Leader. At this moment, the high-ranking officials of Zoroastrianism bowed at Gan Ruyen. However, Gan Ruyen did not pay any attention to them. Her eyes were still trained on Duan Lingtian. A complicated expression could be seen in her eyes. I'm the one who sent a message to Guardian Lingtian. Before Duan Lingtian could respond to Gan Ruyen, a voice rang from behind Gan Ruyen. Gan Ruyen immediately turned around to look at the person behind her. Master, it's you? Why? Why did you? When Gan Ruyen found out that it was her master who had sent a message to Duan Lingtian, she was so angry that she could barely suppress her emotions. If the other party was not her master, perhaps, she would have cursed out loud. I don't want to see you die. Qing Hua, the guardian of Zoroastrianism, who was standing opposite Gan Ruyen, replied to her in this manner. You don't want to see me die? Gan Ruyen smiled bitterly. Then, she said with a bitter expression on her face, Master, if he dies because of me, do you think I'll still live in this world? Qing Hua trembled when he heard Gan Ruyen's words. He could not help but sigh. Silly child. I was wrong this time. He did not expect this. He did not expect his direct disciple to be so unyielding. Just as Gan Ruyen was about to ask Duan Lingtian to leave, a voice rang out. You're Duan Lingtian? In the distance, a person spoke before Gan Ruyen. When that person spoke, he was escorted by another middle-aged man, as he stepped through the air and arrived. As soon as he appeared, he became the focus of everyone's attention. He stole the limelight from Duan Lingtian. You're the person behind Li Bing? Duan Lingtian asked as he looked at the handsome young man who was flying toward him from afar. He did not answer the young man's question. Instead, he asked in return, the person behind Li Bing? When Duan Lingtian finished speaking, the high-ranking members of Zoroastrianism could not help but look at each other in confusion. Some of them had an expression of I knew it was true on their faces. Others had an expression of disbelief on their faces. They could not believe that the person whom Duan Lingtian identified as the person behind the dragons was the person behind the patriarch of Zoroastrianism, Li Bing. How could the person behind their patriarch be the person behind the dragons? They did not dare to believe it, nor did they want to believe it. How dare you? As soon as Duan Lingtian finished speaking, the middle-aged man behind the handsome young man shouted coldly. Then he said, Duan Lingtian, Lord Dichen is the one who asked you a question. Not only did you not answer, but you even questioned Lord Dichen. Do you really think you can act so arrogantly and look down on Lord Dichen just because you're the sect leader of 7 Absolute Sect? Dichen. Many high-ranking members of Zoroastrianism narrowed their eyes when they heard the middle-aged man's words. This was because, as far as they knew, Dichen's name was Dichen. In the entire Dao Martial Saint land, only the members of the Imperial Dragon clan, the Golden Dragon progeny, used the surname Di. This handsome and mysterious young man was a member of the Imperial Dragon clan. The Golden Dragon progeny? You're the one who's bold. Chapter 2382. As a 4-tribulation bodiless celestial, Chen Yiru could tell the middle-aged man standing behind Dichen was a 3-tribulation bodiless celestial. Even he did not think much of a 3-tribulation bodiless celestial. How could he tolerate the fact that the middle-aged man dared to make a fuss in front of his master? 3-tribulation bodiless celestial. The high-ranking officials of Zoroastrianism, who were present on the scene, had already guessed the middle-aged man was a 3-tribulation bodiless celestial. After all, the middle-aged man standing behind Dichen was a 3-tribulation bodiless celestial. However, guesses were just guesses. When Chen Yiru revealed the other party's cultivation, they couldn't help but feel shocked. Chen Yiru said coldly, infuriating the middle-aged man. He said mockingly, as a bodiless celestial, and a 4-tribulation bodiless celestial on top of that, you're a disgrace to us bodiless celestials. You're a disgrace to us bodiless celestials. A mocking smile appeared on the middle-aged man's face when he reached the end of his sentence. Humph. Chen Yiru scoffed. His expression did not change as he said mockingly, aren't you also like a servant who follows behind others? Do you think you're qualified to mock me? You. The middle-aged man was furious, but he did not know how to refute Chen Yiru's words. Indeed, he was like a servant in front of Dichen. Master, Dichen is a 5-tribulation bodiless celestial. At the same time, Chen Yiru did not forget to remind Duan Lingtian through voice transmission. His true form is a 7-clawed golden dragon. Moreover, his father is one of the strongest powerhouses in the dragon clan. Currently, he's a 7-tribulation bodiless celestial as well. 5-tribulation bodiless celestial? Upon hearing Chen Yiru's words, Duan Lingtian no longer feared Chen Yiru. As it turned out, he was worried Dichen's cultivation base was higher than a 6-tribulation bodiless celestial. In the end, he had no choice but to use the agreement between the Dragon's clan and Feng Qingyang to force Dichen to return to the Dragon's bodiless celestial. However, it seemed like there was no need for him to do that. He could easily deal with a 5-tribulation bodiless celestial. Duan Lingtian. At this time, Dichen looked at Duan Lingtian with a sharp gaze and said coldly, as the saying goes, before you beat a dog, you have to look at its owner. You killed my people, which is tantamount to slapping my face. Considering that the 7 Absolute Sect and the dragons have some friendship in the past, I will not kill you. However, you have to kneel down and kowtow to me as an apology. As long as you kneel down and kowtow to me 3 times, this matter will be resolved, and I will not pursue it any further. Emperor Chen's face was full of arrogance as he spoke. It seemed as if he was a high and mighty god overlooking a weak mortal. As soon as Dichen said this, Duan Lingtian's face immediately darkened. How dare you? Chen Yiru flew into a rage. Dichen from the dragons said that Duan Lingtian killed his people? Don't tell me he's talking about the ancestor of Zoroastrianism, Li Bing? It's possible. Otherwise, how could there be such a coincidence in this world? I think it's possible as well. Upon hearing Dichen's words, many of the high-ranking officials of Zoroastrianism could not help but speculate. The person Di Chen said that Duan Lingtian killed might be the ancestor of Zoroastrianism, Li Bing. Before you beat a dog, you have to look at its owner. In front of this Di Chen, the ancestor of Zoroastrianism is just a dog. Some of the high-ranking officials of Zoroastrianism were furious, but they did not dare to show it. Impossible. Some of the high-ranking officials of Zoroastrianism refused to admit it. They thought it was just a coincidence. Ha ha ha. The high-ranking officials of Zoroastrianism shifted their attention to Duan Lingtian. They were curious if Duan Lingtian would kneel and kowtow like Di Chen had said. However, Duan Lingtian suddenly burst out laughing. His laughter was like a clap of thunder that reverberated through the heavens. What? You don't want to kneel and kowtow? Di Chen narrowed his eyes. His tone was cold. Di Chen. As soon as Di Chen finished speaking, Duan Lingtian stopped laughing. His cold eyes immediately landed on Di Chen. As long as you kneel and kowtow to me 3 times, I'll let you leave. Otherwise, don't even think about leaving. Upon hearing Duan Lingtian's words, the entire place fell silent. Just a moment ago, Di Chen had threatened Duan Lingtian. Then Duan Lingtian had threatened Di Chen. Master. Chen Yiru was shocked by Duan Lingtian's words. He quickly said through voice transmission, I know it's not difficult for you to kill Di Chen with your strength. However, Di Chen is not an ordinary member of the dragons. His father is one of the strongest powerhouses among the dragons. He's at least a 7 tribulation bodiless celestial. If you kill him, his father won't let this matter rest. Chen Yiru said through voice transmission. His tone was filled with dread. A 7 tribulation bodiless celestial. For an existence at that level, killing him was as simple as killing a chicken or cutting grass. Even his master was no match for such a powerhouse. I know what I'm doing. Duan Lingtian only responded indifferently when he heard Chen Yiru's words. Chen Yiru was puzzled by Duan Lingtian's words, but he did not know what to say. Ha ha ha. This time, it was Di Chen's turn to laugh. It was as though he had heard the funniest joke in the world. After a while, Di Chen finally stopped laughing. He looked at Duan Lingtian coldly and said, Duan Lingtian, do you really think you can look down on everyone just because you're as strong as a 5 tribulation bodiless celestial? Today, I'll show you that there are many people who can defeat you. I believe there are many people who can defeat me, but that doesn't include you, Di Chen. Duan Lingtian said indifferently. Is that so? Then I'll show you. Even if you're as strong as a 5 tribulation bodiless celestial, I'll still be able to defeat you. Di Chen's celestial elemental energy surged out of his body as soon as his voice faded. It shook the void and left a long and narrow crack in the void. From the looks of it, it would take at least a quarter of an hour for the cracks to completely close. He had seen Duan Lingtian's attack through the mirror image talisman. It was the time when Duan Lingtian had killed Li Bing. Since he had seen Duan Lingtian's attack, he knew Duan Lingtian was weaker than him. Although he was a 5 tribulation bodiless celestial, his strength was at the peak of 5 tribulation bodiless celestial. In 6 months, he would undergo his 6th bodiless celestial tribulation and become a 6 tribulation bodiless celestial. Ordinary 5 tribulation bodiless celestials were nothing to him. In his opinion, Duan Lingtian was just an ordinary 5 tribulation bodiless celestial. 5th tribulation loose immortal? This Di Chen is actually a 5th tribulation loose immortal. After Di Chen finished speaking, the power in his body skyrocketed. All the Zoroastrianism leaders present were shocked. On the other hand, Gan Ruyen, the leader of Zoroastrianism, was no longer worried when she learned that Di Chen was only a 5 tribulation bodiless celestial. Because she knew, a 5th tribulation scattered immortal was still no match for Duan Lingtian. Then I really want to see it for myself. Hearing Di Chen's words, Duan Lingtian sneered. Shortly after, an aura that seemed capable of destroying the heavens and earth erupted from his body. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Accompanied by a series of ear-piercing sword sounds, Duan Lingtian's body once again shot out beams of solidified white sword light. These sword rays whizzed out from every pore on his body, and there were countless of them. Under the watchful eyes of the others, Duan Lingtian's body was quickly enveloped by the white sword lights that shot out from his body. Following that, Duan Lingtian's body seemed to have merged with the white sword lights, as though he had become a part of them. Is Master going to use his full strength? Chun Yiru narrowed his eyes, but at the same time, a look of expectation appeared on his face. After all, he had only seen his master's strength that was comparable to a 5 tribulation bodiless celestial. Based on what he knew, when his master unleashed his full strength, his strength was comparable to a 6 tribulation bodiless celestial. However, he had never seen it before. At this moment, he realized his master was going to use his full strength. He realized his master was going to use his full strength to deal with Di Chun, the dragons. I hope Master will show mercy and won't kill him. Otherwise, Di Chun's father won't be easy to deal with. At this moment, Chun Yiru was looking forward to witnessing Duan Lingtian's true strength. At the same time, he was worried Duan Lingtian would accidentally kill Di Chun. That's under the watchful eyes of the high-ranking officials of the Zoroastrianism. Duan Lingtian's body transformed into a part of the sword lights that shot out from his body. Following that, the sword lights shrunk rapidly. In the end, it transformed into a 3-foot-long sword under everyone's watchful eyes. This 3-foot-long blade was suspended in the air. Its entire body was milky white. Initially, it emitted a faint white light around it. However, in the end, the white light was completely withdrawn, causing this 3-foot-long blade to appear simple and unadorned. Di Chun, use your full strength. Otherwise, I'm afraid you won't have a second chance to attack. At this moment, 2 voices resonated from the milky white sword hovering in the air. Everyone could tell it was Duan Lingtian's voice. Duan Lingtian has transformed into a sword? Could this be the legendary technique that the sword Saint Feng Qingyang once performed, the body and sword as one? Duan Lingtian's achievement in the sword Dao has reached such a level? Among the high-ranking officials of the Zoroastrianism, there were many knowledgeable people who could easily tell Duan Lingtian had used the body and sword union technique. Body and sword union? Even Di Chun could not help but narrow his eyes when he saw Duan Lingtian had transformed into a 3-foot-long sword. Sword Saint Feng Qingyang's Supreme Sword Dao Mental Cultivation Method, the Sovereign Heart Sword, is the body and sword union after the sword manipulation art. The latter is much stronger than the former. Duan Lingtian only used the sword manipulation art to kill Li Bing. Chapter 2383. Roar. Although Di Chun had lost his confidence, he did not lose his will to fight. He let out a beast-like roar as his energy surged like a fireball. When Di Chun's energy surged like a fireball, the high-ranking officials of Zoroastrianism felt as though a scorching sun had appeared in front of them. They could not help but squint their eyes. When they opened their eyes again, they saw Di Chun had disappeared. To be more precise, Di Chun's human body had disappeared. A 1,000-meter-long divine dragon appeared in the void where Emperor Chun had been standing. It meandered down from the horizon and shrouded a large part of the sky. It blotted out the sun. It was awe-inspiring. This was a divine dragon that was completely golden in color. The dragon's scales on its body were shining with a golden luster, which was extremely dazzling. Apart from that, the divine dragon had 7 claws on each of its claws. Each of its claws was extremely sharp, as though it could tear through anything. A 7-clawed golden dragon. The high-ranking officials of Zoroastrianism were shocked when they saw the divine dragon. It seems like Di Chun has decided to go all out. Otherwise, he wouldn't have reverted to his true form before he made his move. Dragons are the strongest when they fight in their true forms. This is especially true for bodiless celestials. When a bodiless celestial is a bodiless celestial, external items from the mundane realm are of little help to them. They have to rely on their own strength to fight. Not only is Di Chun a 5 tribulation bodiless celestial, but he's also a 7-clawed divine dragon. I'm afraid he's one of the strongest 5 tribulation bodiless celestials. Duan Lingtian isn't weak as well. When he killed our 4 tribulation bodiless celestial ancestor of Zoroastrianism, our ancestor said his strength is comparable to a 5 tribulation bodiless celestial. Moreover, he's using the rumored body and sword fusion technique created by Sword Saint Feng Qingyang. I wonder, between the two of them, who will be the final victor? The high-ranking officials of Zoroastrianism stared at the sword and dragon in front of them intently, waiting for the battle to end. Duan Lingtian, I didn't expect you've comprehended the fourth stage of the Sovereign Heart Sword, the Sword Dao mental cultivation method, created by Sword Saint Feng Qingyang. However, you'll still lose in front of me, Di Chun. Emperor Chun was no longer confident in his heart. In fact, he was even somewhat nervous. However, he still understood the principle of not losing momentum. Unfortunately, Duan Lingtian was not swayed by his words. Is that so? Then I'd like to see it. Emperor Chun had transformed into the seven-clawed golden dragon, and had opened his mouth to issue a sound. Simultaneously, the milky white 3-foot-long sword had also issued a sound in the distance. It was Duan Lingtian's voice. Roar. As soon as Duan Lingtian finished speaking, the seven-clawed golden dragon that Di Chun had transformed into roared furiously at the sky. An earth-shattering roar reverberated in the air as a terrifying sound wave swept out, causing the air to tremble as though it would collapse at any moment. When the sound wave spread out, some of the high-ranking officials of Zoroastrianism, who had a weaker cultivation base, felt a piercing pain in their eardrums. Some of them even had their eardrums ruptured. Even those with a higher cultivation base felt chills running down their spines when they heard the dragon's roar. So this is the seven-clawed golden dragon, that's a 5-tribulation bodiless celestial? Just one roar is enough to kill some of the Saint Celestial stage powerhouses with a lower cultivation base. Many of the high-ranking officials of Zoroastrianism shuddered in fear. Boom, 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 boom. At the same time, the seven-clawed golden dragon that Di Chun had transformed into streaked across the sky. Its speed was getting faster and faster. In just a few moments, it had disappeared from the eyes of most of the high-ranking officials of Zoroastrianism. Only a few guardians of Zoroastrianism could vaguely see the seven-clawed divine dragon's figure. After a few moments, even the guardians of Zoroastrianism could no longer see the seven-clawed divine dragon. It was as though the seven-clawed golden dragon, that was thousands of meters long, had disappeared into thin air. Chi, 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 chi. Naturally, they knew the seven-clawed golden dragon did not really disappear. It was just that its speed was so fast that they could not see it with their naked eyes. At this moment, they could only vaguely see the seven-clawed divine dragon. In the space between the seven-clawed golden dragon and the 3-foot-long sword that Duan Lingtian had transformed into, a long and ferocious crack appeared. Looking at the extent of the cracks, it would take at least 15 minutes for them to close up again. From this, it could be seen that Di Chun had made his move without holding back. Swoosh! Emperor Chun had transformed into a seven-clawed golden dragon and had disappeared in front of most people's eyes. Then, the milky white 3-foot-long sword that had been floating in the distance also disappeared in front of most people's eyes along with a burst of sword whistling sound. At this moment, only Chunyi Ru, a 4-tribulation bodiless celestial, and the 3-tribulation bodiless celestial, who was standing next to Di Chun, could vaguely see the figures of the dragon and the sword. How could it be so fast? The 3-tribulation bodiless celestial, who was standing next to the dragons, narrowed his eyes when he heard the sword cry. An expression of shock and disbelief appeared on his face. At this moment, he could still see more of the seven-clawed golden dragon Di Chun's figure. However, the 3-foot-long sword only left a mark in front of him. Its speed was much faster than Di Chun's figure. For this reason, he was shocked. They're not even on the same level. The 3-tribulation bodiless celestial from the dragons felt his scalp go numb as fear rose in his heart. I hope nothing happens to Lord Di Chun. Otherwise, I'll definitely die. At this moment, the 3-tribulation bodiless celestial from the dragons thought about himself. He could already foresee this. If Di Chun were to die here today, his father, the supreme elder of the dragons, would definitely kill him. Duan Lingtian, if you dare to kill Lord Di Chun, the supreme elder of the dragons won't let you and the 7 absolutes sect go. The 3-tribulation bodiless celestial from the dragons cried out in an attempt to stop Duan Lingtian from killing Duan Lingtian. He could see this. Duan Lingtian's strength was comparable to a 6th tribulation bodiless celestial when he cast the body sword fusion technique. He was not a match for Dichen. Although Dichen was considered one of the strongest 5 tribulation bodiless celestials, he was still considered one of the strongest 5 tribulation bodiless celestials. However, there was a huge gap between a 6 tribulation bodiless celestial and a 5 tribulation bodiless celestial. Even a 5 tribulation bodiless celestial, who was invincible among 5 tribulation bodiless celestials, would not be a match for a 6 tribulation bodiless celestial unless he had a celestial supreme treasure or a divine ability from a Devata realm. No matter how weak a 6 tribulation bodiless celestial was, a 6 tribulation bodiless celestial was still a 6 tribulation bodiless celestial. How's this possible? As soon as Duan Lingtian made his move, Dichen, who had transformed into a 7-clawed golden dragon, looked at Duan Lingtian in disbelief with a hint of horror in his eyes. He discovered the speed of the sword was extremely fast. The speed of the sword had surpassed the speed of a 5 tribulation bodiless celestial and was comparable to a 6 tribulation bodiless celestial. A 6 tribulation bodiless celestial? How's this possible? The first thought that appeared in Dichen's mind was that it was unbelievable. However, the truth was right in front of him. No matter how unbelievable it was, he could not deny that it was real. Chi, 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 chi. When Chunyi saw Duan Lingtian tearing a rift in the void that was twice as long as the 7-clawed golden dragon that Dichen had transformed into, he could not help but pray inwardly. Duan Lingtian had transformed into a 3-foot-long blade that was twice as long as the 7-clawed golden dragon. I hope Master won't kill Dichen. Otherwise he'll be in big trouble. Whether it was Chunyi's reaction, Emperor Chen's reaction, or the reaction of the 3 tribulations scattered celestial from the dragon clan, everything happened in a flash. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. As the sound of sword cries rang in the air, Dichen was shocked to see the 3-foot-long sword. When the milky white 3-foot-long blade that Duan Lingtian had transformed into was about to reach him, he split into a few clones and charged at him together. Just one of the clones has strength comparable to a 5 tribulation bodiless celestial. Emperor Chen had also discovered this when he had defeated one of the 3-foot-long green sword's clones. So he couldn't help but feel indescribably shocked in his heart. This is bad. In the next moment, Dichen's expression changed drastically. This was because he discovered that the original body of the 3-foot-long sword and the other clones had already swept past his enormous body with an unstoppable momentum, causing him to feel waves of heart-wrenching pain at the first moment. Chunyi was dumbfounded when he saw this. Emperor Chen had transformed into a 7-clawed golden dragon that was thousands of meters long. But now, his dragon tail and all of his dragon claws were forcibly chopped off by the sword lights. The body of the dragons was said to be invincible, but it was as though it was made of paper in the face of the sword rays. Emperor Chen's body didn't continue to move at such a fast speed at this time. Therefore, he appeared clearly in front of everyone's eyes. The entire place was deathly silent at this moment. A moment ago, the 7-clawed golden dragon had been so majestic in front of them. Now not only was its tail cut off, but all of its claws were also chopped off. At this moment, the gigantic 7-clawed golden dragon seemed to have transformed into a gigantic earthworm. Swoosh! Another sword cry resonated in the air. This time, the 3-foot-long sword that Duan Lingtian had transformed into appeared in front of the 7-clawed golden dragon with a severed tail and claws. It emitted a sword ray that seemed capable of destroying heaven and earth. Chapter 2384. Kneel down and kowtow, or die. Duan Lingtian's words rang from the 3-foot-long sword that was pointed at the 7-clawed golden dragon's head. The sword chi on the 3-foot-long sword was so sharp that it made people feel like they had no choice but to believe him. Even Dichen could not help but feel a chill run down his spine when he heard Duan Lingtian's words. At this moment, only he could clearly sense how terrifying the 3-foot-long blade floating before his eyes was. As long as the sword light emitted from the blade touched his body, it would definitely be able to easily pierce through his body. This was because the power it contained was comparable to the attack of a sixth tribulation bodiless celestial. Duan Lingtian, let's forget about this matter. You don't have to kneel down and kowtow to me anymore. Emperor Chen eventually lowered his arrogant head in the face of the 3-feet-long sword in front of him. Ha 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 ha. However, as soon as Di Chen finished speaking, Duan Lingtian's laughter rang from the 3-foot-long sword hovering in front of Di Chen. It was as though he had just heard the funniest joke in the world. He did not stop laughing for a long time. Swoosh. As soon as Duan Lingtian stopped laughing, the 3-foot-long blade hovering in front of Di Chen's eyes swept across at a speed that was neither fast nor slow. At this moment, even the weakest high-ranking official in the fire worship sect could see the trajectory of the 3-foot-long blade as it streaked across the sky. However, the 3-foot-long sword swung at a moderate speed. Roar! As the 7-clawed golden dragon roared in pain, another section of the 7-clawed divine dragon's body, that was thousands of meters long, was severed. This section was several hundred meters long. However, it wasn't enough to endanger Emperor Chen's life. Instead, it was enough to make him feel heart-wrenching pain. Although a bodiless celestial's body was considered a body of energy, he could still feel pain. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Di Chen's 7-clawed golden dragon shone brightly. Following that, its severed body rapidly recovered, including its tail and claws. All of them were restored to their original state. However, after his body had recovered, everyone present could clearly sense that Di Chen's aura had weakened a little. Clearly, itinerant immortals would need to expend a large portion of their strength to recover their damaged bodies. Whoosh! After Di Chen's 7-clawed golden dragon body was restored to its original state, another burst of golden light burst out, causing everyone present to squint their eyes again. When everyone opened their eyes again, they saw that the golden light had shrunk rapidly. In the end, the 7-clawed golden dragon that was thousands of meters long had disappeared and was replaced by Di Chen's human body. Di Chen returned to his human form. Whoosh! However, even though Emperor Chen had transformed into a human, the 3-foot-long sword in the void was still following him all the time. It was swallowing and spitting out sword light while pointing at the space between his eyebrows. It seemed as if it could take his life at any time. Duan Lingtian. Emperor Chen's complexion turned gloomy, his throat moved, and he issued a roar. Don't go too far. Go too far? Duan Lingtian's voice rang from the 3-foot-long sword. He sneered. I should be the one saying that to you, right? I don't want to waste my breath on you. If you don't kneel and kowtow within 10 breaths, you'll die here. Duan Lingtian's words became even colder after he sneered. Duan Lingtian. My father is a supreme elder of the dragon clan. He's a 7-tribulation bodiless celestial. Upon hearing Duan Lingtian's words, Di Chen's eyes narrowed. At the same time, he brought up his father in an attempt to pressure Duan Lingtian. In his opinion, his father was a 7-tribulation bodiless celestial. Even though Duan Lingtian's strength was comparable to a 6-tribulation bodiless celestial, he was no match for his father. 8 more breaths of time. Just when Di Chen thought that Duan Lingtian would take a step back out of fear of his father, Duan Lingtian's words rang in his ears. He was so shocked that his pupils shrank, and he couldn't recover for a long time. How could this Duan Lingtian remain unmoved after finding out his father was a 7-tribulation bodiless celestial? Was this Duan Lingtian not afraid that his father would avenge him? Hiss! 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 Meanwhile, the high-ranking officials of the Zoroastrianism gasped when they regained their senses. Earlier, when Di Chen said his father was a 7-tribulation bodiless celestial, the high-ranking officials of the Zoroastrianism were in a daze. When they saw Duan Lingtian ignoring Di Chen's threat, they regained their senses. Di Chen brought up his father, a 7-tribulation bodiless celestial, but Duan Lingtian ignored him. Duan Lingtian isn't afraid of a 7-tribulation bodiless celestial? Don't tell me the strength Duan Lingtian displayed isn't his true strength. That's impossible. While the high-ranking officials of the Zoroastrianism were discussing among themselves, Duan Lingtian's voice rang in the air again. 5 more breaths of time. 5 more breaths of time. Di Chen regained his senses when he heard Duan Lingtian's words. He looked at Duan Lingtian in disbelief, as though he had just seen a ghost. Duan Lingtian, aren't you worried my father will seek revenge for me? For more breaths of time. Duan Lingtian's voice rang in the air again, indirectly answering Di Chen's question. You. At this moment, Di Chen realized Duan Lingtian was indeed not worried about his father seeking revenge. He could not help but feel wary. Don't tell me the strength Duan Lingtian displayed earlier isn't his true strength? His true strength is comparable to a 7 tribulation bodiless celestial? It seems like that's the only reason he's not afraid of my father. Emperor Chen's pupils shrank as he thought of this. His heart trembled with fear. Naturally, it's also possible that he's just trying to be mysterious and is not afraid of death. Di Chen thought of another possibility. 2 more breaths of time. Duan Lingtian's voice continued to ring in the air. It shocked Di Chen so much that he shuddered and quickly regained his senses. At the same time, he felt conflicted. On one hand, he had to kneel down and kowtow, throwing away his dignity. On the other hand, he had to die. He did not want to throw away his dignity, but he did not want to die. 1 more breath of time. Duan Lingtian's voice rang in the air again. This time, his voice was even colder than before. The 3-foot-long sword suspended in front of Emperor Chen's eyebrows became increasingly fierce as this voice resounded. Moreover, it was filled with waves of awe-inspiring murderous aura. It seemed as if it was about to devour a person. Whoosh! Di Chen shuddered again. In the end, he could only kneel down with a humiliated expression on his face. At this moment, his face was flushed red from anger. However, he had nowhere to vent his anger. He knelt down. When the high-ranking officials of the Zoroastrianism saw Di Chen kneeling down, they were shocked. Even Gan Ru Yen, the sect leader of the Zoroastrianism, widened her eyes in shock. This handsome young man was a 5 tribulation bodiless celestial from the dragons. Moreover, he had an extraordinary background. However, he was kneeling in front of Duan Lingtian. Di Chen's father is a 7 tribulation bodiless celestial. It's not appropriate for him to do this, right? Gan Ru Yen was worried about Duan Lingtian. Phew! Chen Yiru, who was standing in the distance, sighed in relief when he saw this. It's a good thing Master didn't kill him. If he did, his father would definitely not let this matter rest. However, even if that's the case, I'm afraid Di Chen's father won't let this matter rest so easily. When Chen Yiru thought about this, he could not help but feel worried. Whoosh! A gust of wind blew past as the 3-foot-long sword pointed at Di Chen's glabella shone brightly. Following that, a purple figure appeared. It was none other than Duan Lingtian. Kowtow! Duan Lingtian hovered in the air as he looked at Di Chen. His eyes were emotionless, and his voice was emotionless. Duan Lingtian, you! How dare you! The 3 tribulation bodiless celestial from the dragon clan, who had followed Di Chen to the fire worship sect, cried out, as soon as Duan Lingtian finished speaking. It was as though he was trying to stop Duan Lingtian. Chen Yiru's expression darkened when he was about to explode. Whoosh! The sound of a sword whistling rang in the air before Chen Yiru could do anything. Duan Lingtian pushed his hand forward, and a white sword ray shot out from his palm. The sword ray circled the 3 tribulation bodiless celestial from the dragons, and severed his limbs. Ah! The 3 tribulation bodiless celestial from the dragons cried out in pain. His face turned pale as he tried to regrow his limbs. When he looked at Duan Lingtian again, a horrified expression appeared on his face. He did not dare to make a sound. Duan Lingtian, are you sure you want me to kowtow? When Di Chun heard Duan Lingtian's words, he clenched his teeth and asked in humiliation. What? Do you want me to repeat myself? Duan Lingtian sneered. Don't forget you're the one who suggested kowtowing. Good, good, good. After Di Chun growled a few times, he kowtowed to Duan Lingtian as his body trembled. In the process of kowtowing, he clenched his fists tightly and gritted his teeth. No matter if it was his hands or the corner of his mouth, traces of blood flowed out at the same time, swoosh. After kowtowing 3 times, Di Chun rose to his feet and left the Zoroastrianism holy land in Zoroastrianism. He did not want to stay in this place, where he had lost all his dignity. Duan Lingtian, if I don't kill you, I Di Chun, swear I'm not a human. I swear I'm not a human. Chapter 2385. Duan Lingtian, if I don't kill you, I Di Chun, swear I'm not a human. I swear I'm not a human. Although Di Chun had only spoken after leaving the Zoroastrianism's base, his voice was so loud that it was clearly heard by everyone, including Duan Lingtian, in the Zoroastrianism sect. Di Chun, I'm sure he won't let this matter rest after he returns. I hope he won't vent his anger on Zoroastrianism. Otherwise, we won't be able to withstand his anger. Many high-ranking officials of Zoroastrianism whispered among themselves with a fearful expression on their faces. It was as though Zoroastrianism was about to face a calamity. Some high-ranking officials of Zoroastrianism looked at Duan Lingtian with a hint of blame in their eyes. However, none of them dared to voice their displeasure. In their opinion, Duan Lingtian was not worried at all. If Duan Lingtian did not ask Di Chun to kneel and kowtow, he would not have angered Di Chun and put Zoroastrianism in danger. However, it seemed as though they had forgotten something. Di Chun was the one who asked Duan Lingtian to kneel and kowtow. Duan Lingtian was merely giving Duan Lingtian a taste of his own medicine. Meanwhile, Gan Ru Yen and Chen Yiru looked at Duan Lingtian worriedly. Perhaps, the others would think that Duan Lingtian's true strength was not only comparable to a 6th tribulation bodiless celestial, but he was also a 7th tribulation bodiless celestial. Otherwise, how could Duan Lingtian ignore the threat from a 7th tribulation bodiless celestial? However, Gan Ru Yen and Chen Yiru knew very well that Duan Lingtian's true strength was only comparable to Duan Lingtian's. Duan Lingtian's true strength was only comparable to a 6th tribulation bodiless celestial. Duan Lingtian was not a match for a 7th tribulation bodiless celestial. For this reason, they could not help but feel worried for Duan Lingtian. I'll wait for you. Duan Lingtian's expression remained unchanged as he indifferently spat out these 4 words, when everyone's gazes landed on him in unison. These 4 words were not loud to the people present on the scene. However, it was filled with Duan Lingtian's strength. Duan Lingtian. Di Chun, who was traveling to the east. Duan Lingtian. I want you dead. Di Chun roared inwardly. Unknowingly, killing Duan Lingtian had become an obsession in Di Chun's heart. For a bodiless celestial, who was about to face the bodiless celestial tribulation, having an obsession was taboo. Emperor Chen was also aware of this. But he couldn't help it. After all, he couldn't accept the humiliation he had suffered today. This was the first time in his life that he had to kneel and kowtow to someone. It was not difficult for him to imagine this. It would not take long for news of him kneeling and kowtowing to Duan Lingtian to spread throughout the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. At that time, he would become a laughingstock in the Dao Martial Saint Land. Whoosh! After Di Chun left, the 3 tribulation bodiless celestial from the dragons also left. Before he left, he looked at Duan Lingtian warily. When he saw Duan Lingtian had no intention of stopping him, he sighed in relief. Duan Lingtian merely watched the 3 tribulation bodiless celestial from the dragons leave with Di Chun. He did not even stop Di Chun. Naturally, he would not stop the 3 tribulation bodiless celestial from the dragons. After the high-ranking officials from the Zoroastrianism left, only Duan Lingtian, Gan Ru Yen, and Chen Yiru remained. Even the burly middle-aged man standing behind Gan Ruyen had retreated, not daring to disturb Duan Lingtian and the others. You shouldn't have done that. You humiliated Di Chen. His father won't let you go. Gan Ruyen said with a sigh. He asked for it. Duan Lingtian said indifferently. If he didn't ask me to kneel and kowtow, I wouldn't have bothered with him. However, since he asked for it, he'll have to take responsibility for his words and pay the price for it. When Duan Lingtian reached the end of his sentence, his eyes gleamed coldly. He would not offend those who did not offend him. However, if someone offended him, he was not someone who could be easily bullied. This was Duan Lingtian's principle. But his father is a 7 tribulation bodiless celestial. Gan Ruyen said anxiously. So what? Duan Lingtian's eyes flashed coldly. Don't tell me I have to compromise and let him humiliate me just because his father is a 7 tribulation bodiless celestial? Moreover, he's just a 7 tribulation bodiless celestial. He's not qualified to make me, Duan Lingtian, bow to him. Why your strength is comparable to a 7 tribulation bodiless celestial? Gan Ruyen's eyes widened. Cheniru looked at Duan Lingtian in shock. No. Duan Lingtian shook his head. Then his eyes flashed as he said slowly. However, it won't be long now. Although Gan Ruyen and Cheniru were curious about Duan Lingtian's words, they did not probe further since Duan Lingtian did not intend to elaborate. You, on the other hand, Duan Lingtian looked at Gan Ruyen solemnly as he said, due to the relationship between Zoroastrianism and the dragons, Di Chen won't be able to take revenge on Zoroastrianism. However, I'm sure he'll be able to deal with you, the sect leader of Zoroastrianism. After all, changing the sect leader of Zoroastrianism won't affect the foundation of Zoroastrianism. Duan Lingtian said, I think it's best if you don't stay in Zoroastrianism anymore. If I don't stay in Zoroastrianism, where else can I go? Upon hearing Duan Lingtian's words, Gan Ruyen was slightly moved. However, she could not help but smile bitterly as she said, If I leave, I'll definitely bring Master with me. If Di Chen finds out about my relationship with Master, he'll definitely attack Master if he doesn't see me. Both of you, Master and disciple, should follow me back to the northern region. Coincidentally, Kerr and Xiling miss you as well. Duan Lingtian said. When Duan Lingtian returned to Zoroastrianism, it was a group of 2. However, when they left, it was a group of 5. Apart from Gan Ruyen, there was also Qing Hua, the guardian of Zoroastrianism, and Gan Ruyen, the burly middle-aged man who used to follow Cheniru around. As for the skinny middle-aged man, he had been killed by the 3 tribulation bodiless celestial from the dragons. After Duan Lingtian and the others returned to the temporary estate of the 7 Absolutes sect in the northern region, the western region was not as peaceful as before. Duan Lingtian returned to Zoroastrianism and defeated Di Chen, the 7-clawed golden dragon, who's a 5 tribulation bodiless celestial. He even forced Di Chen to kneel and kowtow as he begged for mercy. Duan Lingtian's strength is comparable to a 6 tribulation bodiless celestial at the very least. In fact, he might even be stronger. The current successor of the Fog Rain progeny, the first absolute of the 7 Absolute sect, is as monstrous as Feng Qingyang, the successor of the Fog Rain progeny. When this news spread in the western region, it naturally caused a commotion in the western region. At the same time, the news spread like wildfire in the upper province of the Dao Marshal Saint Land. In fact, this time around, it only took half a month for the news to spread throughout the entire upper province. The reason it was so quick was because the news was related to Di Chen, a 5 tribulation bodiless celestial from the Dragon Clan. For this reason, many bodiless celestials who lived in seclusion helped spread the news. In just 2 weeks, the news had spread like wildfire in the upper province. Heavens! The current successor of the Fog Rain progeny, the first absolute of the 7 Absolute sect, is really heaven-defying. I can't believe there's a 5 tribulation bodiless celestial among the dragons. A 3 tribulation bodiless celestial is already stronger than an eminent celestial. How strong is a 5 tribulation bodiless celestial? So what if a 5 tribulation bodiless celestial is strong? Didn't he still die in the hands of Duan Lingtian in the end? Duan Lingtian is really terrifying. Previously, he killed a 4 tribulation bodiless celestial from the Zoroastrianism. But this time, he even killed a 5 tribulation bodiless celestial from the dragons. Similar discussions could be heard everywhere in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. The person Duan Lingtian killed, I think his name is Di Chen. As far as I know, the surname Di has always belonged to the golden dragon progeny from the imperial dragons. I heard Di Chen reverted to his true form during the battle with Duan Lingtian. His true form is a 7-clawed golden dragon. At the same time, many people's attention was focused on Emperor Chen's identity. The bodiless celestials in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land were in an uproar as well. Duan Lingtian, the sect leader of the 7 Absolute Sect, managed to force Di Chen to kneel and kowtow? Monstrous. He's monstrous. He's monstrous indeed. It hasn't even been 100 years since Duan Lingtian rose to power. In less than 100 years, his strength is already comparable to a 6 tribulation bodiless celestial. If he's given a few more years, who in the Dao Martial Saint Land would be able to defeat him? Even now, I don't think anyone would be able to defeat him. Who knows if his true strength is comparable to a 6 tribulation bodiless celestial? That's right. Previously, when he killed Li Bing, we thought his strength was only comparable to a 5 tribulation bodiless celestial. However, it has only been slightly more than a month, and his strength is comparable to a 6 tribulation bodiless celestial. Who knows, his strength might be even higher than this. Every time Duan Lingtian makes a move, he gives people a different kind of shock. No one knows where his trump card is. After all, he's the successor of the Sword Saint. That Sword Saint could even kill an 8 tribulation bodiless celestial. As his direct disciple, even if Duan Lingtian isn't as strong as the Sword Saint, he shouldn't be too far off. We can't afford to offend Duan Lingtian. Duan Lingtian was unaware that the group of bodiless celestials in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land had already regarded him as a tiger and were extremely wary of him. In the eastern region, in the 100,000 mountains, at the dragon's estate, 5 tribulation bodiless celestial? We dragons have bodiless celestials as well? Di Chen, isn't he the grand elder of the dragons from 6,000 years ago? He's still alive? Moreover, he even became a bodiless celestial. Chapter 2386. I didn't expect this. When I heard about bodiless celestials, I thought we dragons might have bodiless celestials as well. I didn't expect there to be one. The bodiless celestials of the dragons are 5 tribulation bodiless celestials. Why don't I feel happy when I find out we have a 5 tribulation bodiless celestial? A 5 tribulation bodiless celestial from our dragon clan was forced to kneel, kowtow, and beg for mercy by the sect leader of the 7 Absolute Sect. Who in the dragon clan wouldn't be angry or happy? Many members of the dragons discussed among themselves. They were surprised by the existence of a bodiless celestial among the dragons, and they were furious that Duan Lingtian, the sect leader of the 7 Absolute Sect, had forced their bodiless celestial to kneel and kowtow to beg for mercy. These members of the dragons were unaware of the existence of bodiless celestials because they were unaware of the existence of bodiless celestials. The dragons in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land were divided into the outer clan and the inner clan. The outer tribes included all those below the eminent celestial stage in the dragon clan. Among these outer tribes, only a few high-ranking members knew about bodiless celestials and were aware that there were many bodiless celestials in the dragon clan. However, they were unaware that there were 2 types of bodiless celestials. The bodiless celestials of the dragons were divided into 2 types. One type was the bodiless celestials of the dragons, and the other type was the bodiless celestials from the 3 great sects, who were forcibly brought back to the dragons by the bodiless celestials. The dragons' residence was divided into 3 areas. One area was for the outer clan, the other was for the inner clan, and the last area was for the bodiless celestials from the 3 great sections. From this, it could be seen that the inner clan of the dragons consisted of the bodiless celestials of the dragons. In the eyes of outsiders, the dragons only had one clan leader. In fact, there were 2 patriarchs in the dragon clan. One of them was the patriarch of the outer clan, and was usually at the ninth form of the Saint Celestial stage. The other patriarch was the patriarch of the inner clan, and was in charge of all the bodiless celestials in the dragon clan. He was the true patriarch of the dragon clan. The leader of the inner clan of the dragons was usually the symbol of the strongest power of the dragons, and there was no exception in every generation. In this world, the strong were respected, and it was the same for dragons. Only the strongest loose immortals among the dragons would be able to obtain the support of a group of dragons and become the clan leader of the dragons. Di Chun actually kowtowed and begged for mercy in front of that Duan Lingtian? What a disgrace to us dragons! How spineless! When news of this spread to the dragons, not only was the outer clan shocked, but even the inner clan was shocked as well. When the bodiless celestials in the inner clan of the dragons learned about Di Chun's spineless behavior, they began to mock Di Chun. If Di Chun refuses to submit, he'll still have a good reputation. However, he's a coward and will go down in infamy. Di Chun is a seven-clawed golden dragon from the Imperial clan. How could he do such a thing? Not only is he a disgrace to himself, but he's also a disgrace to us dragons. If it were him, he would have just killed himself. How would he have the guts to come back? Sho, keep your voices down. If the Supreme Elder hears you, you'll be in deep trouble. When the bodiless celestials in the inner clan of the dragons mentioned Di Chun's father, the Supreme Elder of the inner clan of the dragons, they fell silent. There were only 3 Supreme Elders in the inner clan of the dragons. Apart from the clan leader of the inner clan of the dragons, the 3 Supreme Elders were the most powerful people in the inner clan. The Supreme Elders had a lot of power in the inner clan. They could even execute 1 or 2 bodiless celestials in the inner clan of the dragons without reporting to the clan leader. Therefore, everyone became silent when they heard that Emperor Chen's father was one of the Supreme Elders of the 9 great sects. In the inner clan of the dragons, there was a large courtyard in a valley that was filled with birds chirping and flowers blooming. This was the residence of the 7-clawed divine dragon Di Chun. At this moment, in the spacious room at the back of the courtyard, there was a person sitting cross-legged on the bed. The other person was standing in front of the bed, looking at the former with a gloomy expression. No one knew what he was thinking. The person sitting in front of the bed was none other than Di Chun. The person standing in front of the bed was a tall and sturdy middle-aged man. His eyebrows were 60 to 70% similar to Emperor Chen's. In fact, the outline of his face seemed to have been carved from the same mold as Emperor Chen's. If the other members of the inner clan of the dragons were here, they would recognize the middle-aged man immediately. The middle-aged man was none other than Di Huan, the Supreme Elder of the inner clan of the dragons. He was also Di Chun's father. Father, I can't help it. Suddenly Di Chun, who was sitting cross-legged on the bed, opened his eyes. His face was pale as he looked at Di Huan, who was standing in front of the bed. He said unwillingly, "That obsession. I can't suppress it. Perhaps it's only when that Duan Lingtian is dead that my obsession can be removed." Di Chun's voice was low when he reached the end of his sentence. His eyes gleamed coldly. Duan Lingtian. A hint of killing intent flashed in Di Huan's eyes when he heard Di Chun's words. An aura swept out of his body, causing the furniture in the room to shake. "Father, kill him for me. I want him dead. I want him dead." Di Chun growled as he looked at Di Huan. Apart from anticipation, there was only desire in his eyes. He would not be able to rest until Duan Lingtian was dead. His obsession would not be removed. Di Huan's eyes flickered a few times before he said hesitantly, "Chinar, I know you can't wait to kill that Duan Lingtian." However, a few years ago, the Patriarch had already asked Elder to investigate if Duan Lingtian was a 9-clawed dragon warrior. Father really wants to kill him to vent the hatred in your heart. However, if I kill him, I'm afraid the Patriarch will. Di Huan did not finish his sentence since he knew his son understood what he meant. Father! Di Chun cried out anxiously when he heard Di Huan's words. "Half a year. I only have half a year left. My bodiless celestial tribulation will arrive in half a year. At that time, if my obsession is still there, I'll definitely die. I'll definitely die." "Don't tell me. Father, Are you going to watch as I perish from the bodiless celestial tribulation because of my obsession? Di Chen's expression was filled with reluctance. However, a hint of hope flashed in his eyes as he continued to say, "The Patriarch has already confirmed that Duan Lingtian is a nine-clawed dragon warrior. As for the Patriarch, he hasn't confirmed whether Duan Lingtian is a nine-clawed dragon warrior or not. Regardless of whether he's a nine-clawed dragon warrior or not, as long as you kill him and destroy his corpse, the Patriarch won't do anything to you even if he finds out you're the one who killed him. Moreover, it's perfectly justifiable for you to kill him. Even the Patriarch has no reason to stop you." Di Chen continued to say. Di Huan's eyes lit up when he heard Di Chen's words. They were like two bright stars in the night sky. They shone brightly. Indeed, his son was right. Currently, their Patriarch was still unsure if Duan Lingtian was a nine-clawed dragon warrior or not. If he killed Duan Lingtian and destroyed his corpse, the dragons would not be able to do anything to him even if they found out. Moreover, he had a good reason to kill Duan Lingtian for his son. Those involved are often confused, Di Huan thought to himself. At this moment, Di Huan realized the reason he was hesitant was because of the Patriarch's imposing aura that constantly affected him. Although he was a seven-tribulation bodiless celestial, one of the strongest powerhouses in the dragon clan, and his strength was not inferior to the other two supreme elders, he was nothing compared to the Patriarch of the dragon clan. If the Patriarch wanted to kill him, it would be as easy as stepping on an ant. It was precisely because of this that he subconsciously did not dare to have any thoughts of going against the Patriarch. After all, if he were to kill Duan Lingtian, it could be considered as going against the will of the Patriarch to a certain extent. "Chen I'll leave the dragons and look for Duan Lingtian to avenge you," Di Huan said as he looked at Di Chen affectionately. "Father." Di Chen's eyes lit up immediately. Although he was happy, he did not forget to remind his father. "Father, when Duan Lingtian defeated me, his strength is comparable to a six-tribulation bodiless celestial. However, I'm not sure if his true strength is comparable to a seven-tribulation bodiless celestial or not." When Di Chen reached the end of his sentence, his expression turned grave. "I've already thought of this," Di Huan said. "For this reason, I plan to ask your Uncle Zhou and Uncle Qin to accompany me to look for Duan Lingtian to avenge you. Unless Duan Lingtian is as strong as Sword Saint Feng Qingyang, he'll definitely die. Moreover, it's impossible for him to possess the strength of Sword Saint Feng Qingyang from back then. You should know that according to the records left behind by our ancestors, Sword Saint Feng Qingyang was able to kill an 8-tribulation bodiless celestial and fight a 9-tribulation bodiless celestial when he was just an eminent celestial, because he accidentally entered the Beyond Heaven secret zone and obtained a great fortuitous encounter." Di Huan finished speaking in one breath. "Uncle Qin." Di Chen's eyes lit up when he heard Di Huan's words. He knew Uncle Qin was not an ordinary person. Uncle Qin was even stronger than his father. He was an 8-tribulation bodiless celestial. "Duan Lingtian, I don't believe you won't die if an 8-tribulation bodiless celestial makes a move." Emperor Chen laughed like a madman for a while. His tone was full of joy. A month later, on a nameless snow-capped mountain in the northern region, the temporary estate of the Seven Absolutes sect welcomed back the successors of the Didymus progeny, the sixth absolute of the Seven Absolutes sect, and Han Xuanai, the successor of the Red Dust progeny. It was supposed to be a good day for Duan Lingtian to reunite with his old friends. However, Han Xuanai brought back two pieces of bad news one after another. Gu Li, the successor of the Kratos progeny, the third absolute. Yu Wu-ing, the successor of the Dark Shadow progeny, the fourth absolute. Chapter 2387. How could this be? How could this be? After the old prophet learned about the death of the current successors of the third absolute, the Kratos progeny, and the fourth absolute, the dark shadow progeny, from Han Xuanai, the old prophet's face turned pale. His eyes were lifeless as though he had lost his soul. Ever since he set up the six absolutes' heaven-defying fate-changing grand formation, he could no longer predict the fates of the successors of the six absolutes. However, it did not cross his mind. The current successors of the seven absolute sect's first absolute, the fog rain progeny, and the dark shadow progeny, had died one after another when the current successors of the seven absolute sect's first absolute, the seven absolute sect's first absolute, the fog rain progeny, and the seven absolute sect's seven absolute sect were about to gather. In other words, the gathering of the seven absolutes had turned into a huge joke. Senior Uncle Tianji and Master, she's dead as well. When Han Xuanai spoke again, two streams of tears fell from her red eyes uncontrollably. The moment the tears appeared, it was like a broken dam that could not be stopped. What? Upon hearing Han Xuanai's words, the Elder of Heavenly Secrets' body trembled. His previous absent-mindedness was swept away, and he regained his senses. He looked sharply at Han Xuanai and asked in a deep voice, "What's going on? How did your master die?" The Oracle Man could not accept the fact that Gu Li and Yu Wuing had died. However, Han Xuanai's words were like adding oil to the fire. It made the Oracle Man even more uncomfortable. Who did this? Don't tell me it's Zhuangzi Buddhism and the people from Heaven Divination sect. The Oracle Man continued to ask. His originally cloudy eyes were not only shining brightly, but they were also filled with anger. It was as though flames were burning in his eyes. I don't know, Han Xuanai said with a pained expression on her face. Before Master died, apart from telling me that Gu Li and Yu Wuing had died, she also reminded me to be careful when I see Brother Ling Tian. It seems like the person who killed Master was looking for Brother Ling Tian. Because Master didn't cooperate, that person killed Master. Moreover, Master also said that the person who killed Gu Li and Yu Wuing was the same person. Master didn't know who that person's identity. However, she could tell that the person was a bodiless celestial, a very powerful bodiless celestial. When Han Xuanai finished Yu Wu's Yu and Yu Wuing, Yu Huanyu and Yu Shui, Shui accompanied by two simultaneous exclamations of surprise, two extremely beautiful women with graceful figures flew forward and helped Han Xuanai up from the left and right. These two women were none other than Ke and Feng Tianwu. Currently, not only were Ke and Feng Tianwu present, but even Duan Lingtian was present as well. From beginning to end, he had been quietly listening to Han Xuanai's words. Since he's a bodiless celestial, he should have nothing to do with Zhuangzi Buddhism and the Heaven Divination sect. After hearing Han Xuanai's words, Duan Lingtian opened his mouth and spoke in an extremely low tone. Whether it was Zhuangzi Buddhism or the Heaven Divination sect, he knew there were no bodiless celestials. At the same time, Duan Lingtian's eyes were burning with rage as he said through gritted teeth, "Since they're here for me, it can only be them." Them? The Oracle Man was stunned. "Master, do you think it's the dragon's men?" Chen Yiru, who was standing at the side, could not help but speculate when he heard Duan Lingtian's words. Who else could it be other than them? Duan Lingtian sneered as the flames of anger in his eyes burned even brighter. Gu Li was his senior brother, and he had a close relationship with him. However, Duan Lingtian had been killed. Moreover, it was highly likely that he had something to do with Gu Li's death. As for Yu Wuing, and the previous successor of the seven absolute sect's Red Dust progeny, who was also Han Xuanai's master, although they did not have much interaction with him, they were still members of the seven absolute sect. When Duan Lingtian thought about how he was the cause of their deaths, he could no longer suppress the anger in his heart. Dragons! Upon hearing Chen Yiru's words and Duan Lingtian's confirmation, everyone present, including the Oracle Man, Ke, Feng Tianwu, Han Xuanai, and Nangong, widened their eyes in shock. Although not everyone knew the three great sects were supported by the dragons and the phoenixes, they knew that there were bodiless celestials among them. Among the dragons, there were bodiless celestials. Previously, Di Chun, a five-tribulation bodiless celestial from the dragons, had knelt and kowtowed to the sect leader of the Seven Absolutes sect. However, Di Chun's appearance was undoubtedly a declaration to the entire upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. There were bodiless celestials among the dragons. Moreover, Di Chun's threat to Duan Lingtian in the Zoroastrianism's estate had spread throughout the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. At that time, the world learned that there were bodiless celestials among the dragons. There were 7 tribulation bodiless celestials among the dragons. You're saying the people who killed Xuanai's master, Guli, and Yu Wuing are from the dragons? The people from the dragons did that because of Di Chun and wanted to look for you? However, the 3 of them refused to cooperate and were killed? Although the Oracle Man's cultivation base was nothing compared to the others, his experience was not something the others could compare to. It was easy for him to figure out many things from Duan Lingtian's words. I can't be completely sure, but I'm more than 90% sure that Emperor Chen is involved in the deaths of those 3 people. Duan Lingtian said coldly. The 3 of them were either killed by Di Chun or Di Chen's father. The latter is more likely. After all, that Emperor Chen won't dare to swagger out and look for me since he knows that he's no match for me. Although Duan Lingtian was merely making a guess, his words left no room for doubt. Big brother Lingtian. After hearing Duan Lingtian's words, Han Shu and I looked at Duan Lingtian with a pained expression. Her eyes were filled with hope, as if she was grasping at a life-saving straw. You have to avenge my master. You have to avenge my master. At this moment, Han Shuenai was completely covered in tears. Duan Lingtian could not help but feel his heart ache when he saw this. Thinking back to when they first met, Han Shuenai was still a carefree young girl. But now, he was suffering the pain of losing his parents. For a moment, Duan Lingtian could not help but feel a chill in his heart. Dragons! I, Duan Lingtian, will remember this. Our Zhuangzi Buddhism sect is stronger than the dragons? 7 tribulation bodiless celestials? Lang Qianjin, the supreme elder of the Zhuangzi Buddhism sect, was so angry that he almost threw up blood when he heard the rumors. If there's a bodiless celestial in our Zhuangzi Buddhism sect, how could I not know about it? As for the dragons, I used to think that our Zhuangzi Buddhism sect is stronger than them. Now even if they send out a 3 tribulation bodiless celestial to suppress our Zhuangzi Buddhism sect, our Zhuangzi Buddhism sect would have no choice but to admit defeat. Lang Qianjin was so angry that he almost threw up blood. He was speechless and felt wronged. However, Duan Lingtian, the sect leader of the 7 Absolute sect, wouldn't be so foolish as to believe the rumors and think that someone from the Zhuangzi Buddhism sect killed Guli and Yu Wuing? Lang Qianjin could not help but feel anxious when he thought of this. Soon after, Mo Xian, the great oracle of heaven divination sect, and Lang Qianjin, the supreme elder of the Zhuangzi Buddhism sect, announced to the entire Dao Martial Saint Land in unison. From today onward, the heaven divination sect will no longer be enemies with the 7 Absolute sect. People from the heaven divination sect will have to take a detour when they encounter people from the 7 Absolute sect. From today onward, the Zhuangzi Buddhism sect is willing to put aside the enmity between us and the 7 Absolute sect. As long as the sect leader of the 7 Absolute sect, Duan Lingtian, says the word, the Zhuangzi Buddhism sect is willing to offer a large number of quasi-celestial grade saint stones as compensation. When the 2 great sects made such a statement, it was only natural that it shocked everyone in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. Could it be that our previous speculation was wrong? The deaths of Gu Li and Yu Wuing have nothing to do with the Zhuangzi Buddhism sect and the Heaven Divination sect? If it has nothing to do with the Zhuangzi Buddhism sect and the Heaven Divination sect, could it be Zoroastrianism? It's impossible for Zoroastrianism sect to do that. Although the Zoroastrianism sect leader, Gan Ruyen, left the Zoroastrianism sect, Gan Ruyen still hasn't removed the rule of not being enemies with the Seven Absolutes sect. In other words, the deaths of Gu Li and Yu Wuing have nothing to do with Zoroastrianism? If that's the case, there's only one possibility left. Gu Li and Yu Wuing were killed by the dragons. As for the dragon's motive, it's most likely related to the incident where Di Chun, the 5 tribulation bodiless celestial from the dragons, was humiliated by Duan Tian, the sect leader of the Seven Absolute sect. That should be the case. As the Heaven Divination sect and the Zhuangzi Buddhism sect made their statements, the attention of the people in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land shifted to the dragons. If the deaths of the 2 successors of the Seven Absolute sect had nothing to do with the 3 great sects, it could only mean that the dragons had something to do with it. Only the dragons had the motive to do that. They're not stupid. They actually suspected the dragons. The Zhuangzi Buddhism sect and the Heaven Divination sect have admitted defeat in front of the Seven Absolute sect. If they still can't figure out that the dragons are the culprits, they're really stupid. Many bodiless celestials in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land shared similar sentiments when they began to suspect the dragons for the deaths of the 2 successors of the Seven Absolute sect. In the eastern region, in the 100,000 mountains, the dragon's estate, in the inner clan. Father, how did things get out of hand? I'm afraid Lord Patriarch has already guessed that the deaths of the successors of the 3rd and 4th absolutes of the Seven Absolute sect have something to do with us. If he intervenes, how are we going to kill Duan Tian? Di Chun looked at his father worriedly. He was not worried that the Patriarch would come looking for trouble with his father over the deaths of the 2 successors of the Seven Absolute sect. No matter what, his father was the supreme elder of the Dragon clan. His status was lofty. He was worried that the Patriarch would intervene when he found out they were going to kill Duan Tian. He would order them not to kill Duan Tian before he found out if Duan Tian was a 9-clawed dragon warrior. If the Patriarch gave such an order, then no matter how bold the father and son duo were, they would not dare to act rashly against Duan Tian. If his father dared to disobey the Patriarch's order, the Patriarch would definitely be enraged. At that time, the Patriarch would most likely kill his father out of consideration for his own dignity. I didn't expect the 2 successors of the Seven Absolutes sect to be so stubborn. They would rather die than tell me where Duan Tian is. Even the previous successor of the Red Dust progeny, the 7th Absolute of the Seven Absolute sect, would rather die than submit. At this moment, even Di Chun's father Di Huan could not help but frown. He felt that things were getting out of hand. At the same time, he regretted killing the 2 successors of the Seven Absolute sect in a fit of anger. At that time, he had only wanted to find out where Duan Tian was. However, the 2 successors of the Seven Absolute sect refused to obey him. Naturally, he had killed them out of anger. After all, in the eyes of a 7 tribulation bodiless celestial like him, the 2 successors of the Seven Absolute sect were as insignificant as ants. He did not expect this matter to escalate to such an extent that it might even alert the Patriarch of the Dragons. While Di Huan was frowning, he seemed to have sensed something. He abruptly lifted his hand and took out a jade slip. At the same time, an invisible ray of light flew over from afar and merged into the jade strip. It caused the jade strip to flicker and emit a rich light. Soon after, the light gradually withdrew and disappeared. Crack! Di Huan immediately crushed the jade token in his hand. Almost at the same time as Di Huan crushed the jade slip, a voice resounded in the air and clearly entered their ears. Supreme Elder, the Patriarch of the Dragons was killed by the current successor of the Prophet progeny, the 2nd Absolute of the Seven Absolute sect, with the heaven-defying art of cursing. Currently, the entire clan is in chaos. When Di Huan and Di Chun heard this, they were stunned for a moment. After a while they regained their senses. Their expressions changed drastically. How dare the Seven Absolutes sect? How dare they kill the Patriarch of the Dragons? Isn't the Seven Absolutes sect afraid of being annihilated by the dragons? The Patriarch that Di Huan and Di Chun had mentioned earlier was, naturally, the Patriarch of the Outer Clan. The Patriarch of a foreign clan was only the spokesperson of the Dragon Clan. Chapter 2389. The Patriarch of the Dragons is dead. The Patriarch of the Dragons was killed by the current successor of the Prophet progeny, the second absolute of the Seven Absolutes sect. In the past, the death of the Patriarch of the Dragons would not have caused much of a commotion. However, the current dragons were not the same as before. This was because the people in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land knew that the three sects were more powerful than the current dragons. This was because there were not only bodiless celestials among the dragons, but there were also the strongest bodiless celestials among the dragons. 7 tribulation bodiless celestials. The current Seven Absolutes sect was so powerful that even the 3 great sects had to bow down to them. However, the dragons were not afraid of the Seven Absolutes sect at all. This could be seen from the fact that the dragons had killed 2 of the current successors of the Seven Absolutes sect. The people from the Seven Absolutes sect are too bold. That's the Patriarch of the Dragons. She actually killed him with a curse. That's not right. There are 7 tribulation bodiless celestials among the dragons. Their Patriarch should be quite strong. How could he be killed by the current successor of the Prophet progeny, the second absolute of the Seven Absolutes sect? I think something is amiss as well. Is it possible that the Patriarch of the Dragons isn't a bodiless celestial? Many people in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land were shocked by the news of the Patriarch of the Dragons being killed. However, not long after they voiced their doubts, they found out the answer to their questions. The answer came from the dragons. The Patriarch of the Dragons is the Patriarch of the Outer Clan. He's the representative of the dragons. His cultivation base is only at the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage. Apart from the Patriarch of the Outer Clan, there's also the Patriarch of the Inner Clan. The Patriarch of the Inner Clan is the strongest person among the dragons. He's so strong that even Di Chen's father, a 7 tribulation bodiless celestial, can't compare to him. When the news spread like wildfire in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land, it caused an uproar in the upper province. There were actually 2 patriarchs among the dragons. The Patriarch of the Dragon Clan was only at the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage? How could it be possible that the Patriarch of the Dragon Clan was only at the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage? Within the Dragon Clan, there was another clan leader. He was the Inner Clan leader. Does this mean the Inner Clan Patriarch of the Dragons is at least an 8 tribulation bodiless celestial? Heavens! The Dragon Clan actually had an 8 tribulation bodiless celestial. Apart from 9 tribulation bodiless celestials, 8 tribulation bodiless celestials were the strongest in the mundane realms. In the history of the Dao Martial Saint Land, 9 tribulation bodiless celestials were extremely rare. That's right. A 9 tribulation bodiless celestial represents the glory of an era. Therefore, it's basically impossible for a 9 tribulation bodiless celestial to exist in our era. Although most people in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land did not think there was a 9 tribulation bodiless celestial in this era, they were still shocked when they learned the Inner Clan Patriarch of the Dragons was an 8 tribulation bodiless celestial, while the people in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land were still shocked by the fact that there was an 8 tribulation bodiless celestial among the dragons. Another announcement was made among the dragons. Those who provide the whereabouts of the members of the Seven Absolutes sect to the dragons will be handsomely rewarded by the dragons. From today onward, the dragons will fight the Seven Absolutes sect to the death. When the announcement made by the Dragon Clan spread out in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land, it caused a huge commotion. The dragons are furious. At this moment, everyone realized the dragons were furious. The dragons were furious. The current successor of the Prophet progeny, the second absolute of the Seven Absolutes sect, had killed the outer clan patriarch of the Dragon's clan. It's understandable. Although the cultivation base of the outer clan patriarch of the Dragon's clan is nothing compared to the dragons, he's still the representative of the dragons. Killing him is equivalent to slapping the Seven Absolutes sect in the face. That's right. The death of the outer clan patriarch of the Dragon's clan is undoubtedly a humiliation to the dragons. This is the only way for the dragons to regain their dignity. Only by annihilating the Seven Absolutes sect will the dragons be able to wash away their humiliation. The Seven Absolutes sect is doomed. Many people sighed. They thought the Seven Absolutes sect was doomed. However, there were some people who did not think so. The Seven Absolutes sect is doomed? I don't think so. Don't forget that the current sect leader of the Seven Absolutes sect, Duan Lingtian, is not someone to be trifled with. That's right. Up until now, Duan Lingtian has only displayed strength comparable to a 6th tribulation bodiless celestial. Who knows if he has unleashed his full strength or not? After all, Sword Saint Feng Qingyang was able to kill an 8th tribulation bodiless celestial, even though he was only an eminent celestial. Duan Lingtian is the successor of Sword Saint Feng Qingyang. Although he's not as strong as Feng Qingyang, I'm afraid he's not too far off. I'm afraid there are only a handful of dragons who can defeat him. These people felt that Duan Lingtian's cultivation base was not as simple as it seemed when he defeated Di Chun, a 5 tribulation bodiless celestial from the Dragon's clan. In the eastern region, at the Dragon's residence in the 100,000 mountains. Father, Lord Patriarch has yet to come out of his closed-door cultivation. You've even announced that the dragons will fight to the death with the Seven Absolutes sect, and spread the news to the entire upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. Will the Patriarch blame you when he comes out of his closed-door cultivation? Di Chen asked worriedly as he looked at Di Huan. Chinner, don't worry. Di Huan smiled as he shook his head. Then, his eyes narrowed as he said, even if the Patriarch comes out of his closed-door cultivation and learns about this, he won't let the Seven Absolutes sect go. Moreover, I've obtained Elder Shang's permission to issue this order. Lord Patriarch has said that as long as 2 of the 3 Supreme Elders agree, they can deal with the dragons while he's in closed-door cultivation. For this reason, I'm only acting according to Lord Patriarch's orders. A hint of cunning flashed in Di Huan's eyes when he finished speaking. Your wise father. Di Chen's eyes lit up when he heard Di Huan's words. The worry on his face disappeared, and was replaced by a smile. So, to a certain extent, we should thank the current successor of the prophet progeny, the second absolute of the Seven Absolute sect? If it weren't for her, the dragons wouldn't have to go against the Seven Absolute sect. The smile on Di Chen's face grew wider and wider as he spoke. Indeed, we should thank that girl. However, that girl is capable of using the heaven-defying art of cursing to kill the Patriarch of the Dragons. She's not easy to deal with. After all, the Patriarch of the Dragons is not an ordinary powerhouse at the 9th form of the Saint Celestial stage. His comprehension of heaven and earth is close to reaching its limit. He's only a step away from triggering the Celestial Ascension Tribulation. Di Huan nodded. So what? She's just a little girl who hasn't even become an eminent celestial. Di Chen said disdainfully. So what if she's an eminent celestial? Let alone a 4 tribulation bodiless celestial. She might not even be able to defeat an ordinary 3 tribulation bodiless celestial. There's only one successor of the Fog Rain progeny in the Seven Absolutes sect. When Di Chen reached the end of his sentence, he could not help but recall the current successor of the Fog Rain progeny, Duan Lingtian. His eyes could not help but widen in rage. Flames of anger burned in the depths of his eyes. It was as though they were capable of incinerating everything. Duan Lingtian had humiliated him so much that he did not dare to leave his cultivation place. If he left now, the other members of the dragons would definitely look at him strangely. Earlier, when he had kowtowed to Duan Lingtian and begged for mercy, not only had he humiliated himself, but even the members of the dragons felt that he had humiliated the dragons. Previously, as the only son of Di Huan, the supreme elder of the dragons, although he could not summon the wind and rain, there were not many dragons who dared to offend him. However, He had been reduced to a state where he did not even dare to leave his cultivation place. This is all because of Duan Lingtian. It's all because of him. If it weren't for him, I wouldn't have ended up like this. Emperor Chen's eyes blazed with anger. The obsession in his heart had become increasingly intense. He couldn't let go of it. Chen. At this moment, Di Huan's expression changed when he noticed Di Chen's strange behavior. When he was certain Di Chen's obsession had grown so strong that it was almost impossible for him to let go, his eyes burned with hatred. There are only 3 months left. Chen's bodiless celestial tribulation will come in 3 months. I must find Duan Lingtian and kill him in front of Chen, or within these 3 months. Otherwise, Chen's bodiless celestial tribulation is going to be a disaster. With this thought in mind, Di Huan left the dragons without saying goodbye to Di Chen. He could feel the urgency of the situation. After 2 months, Duan Lingtian and the others finally welcomed the current successor of the prophet progeny, the second absolute of the 7 absolutes sect. This was also Duan Lingtian's first time meeting the successor of the prophet progeny. The successor of the prophet progeny was a woman dressed in white. She had an extraordinary aura. As soon as she appeared, it seemed as though everything around her paled in comparison. Her waist-length hair cascaded down her back, like a waterfall cascading down 9 straight waterfalls. Although her face was covered by a white veil, it seemed as though her face was covered by a white veil. Chapter 2390. It's good that you're back. A smile appeared on the oracle man's face when he saw his direct disciple had returned safely. He sighed in relief inwardly. He had learned about what his direct disciple had done in the dragons. While the actions of his personal disciple were indeed satisfying, he was also well aware of how dangerous it was. After all, the dragons were one of the 2 most powerful clans in the Dao Martial Saint Land. For this reason, he was overjoyed when he saw his direct disciple had returned safely. The old prophet was about to introduce Duan Lingtian, the current successor of the Fog Rain progeny, the first absolute of the 7 absolute sect, to his direct disciple, when he was interrupted by Duan Lingtian, the current sect leader of the 7 absolute sect. Duan Lingtian, Mu-yi, the oracle man's direct disciple, and the current successor of the prophet progeny, the second absolute of the 7 absolute sect, looked at Duan Lingtian intently. She had called out Duan Lingtian's name. It was obvious she had recognized him. What's going on? However, Duan Lingtian did not respond to Mu-yi's greeting, since he was not paying attention to her at all. When Mu-yi had first appeared, he had sensed a familiar aura from her. Even though this aura was very faint, he could still clearly sense it. However, he could not recall where he had come into contact with this aura. Apart from her own aura, there seemed to be 8 other auras on the successor of the prophet progeny. Including the aura I've come into contact with, there are 9 different auras on her. As an eminent celestial, although Duan Lingtian's soul was not as strong as a bodiless celestial, it was much stronger than the successor of the prophet progeny. Therefore, he extended his divine consciousness and easily sensed the 10 auras on the successor of the prophet progeny. Among the 10 auras, the other 9 auras were intertwined with the strongest aura. It was the successor of the prophet progeny's aura. The condition of her body should be related to the cultivation method she cultivates. Duan Lingtian speculated inwardly. Brother Lingtian, senior sister Yi is greeting you. Han Shu and I walked up to Duan Lingtian and tugged on his sleeve. She reminded Duan Lingtian. When she looked at the successor of the prophet progeny, Mu-yi, a hint of admiration could be seen in her eyes. It was as though she regarded Mu-yi as her idol. With Han Shu and I's reminder, Duan Lingtian regained his senses. He looked at Mu-yi and said, I'm sorry, junior sister Yi. I sensed a familiar aura on you. Before Mu-yi had returned, Duan Lingtian had heard the oracle man mention her more than once. He knew she was a rare heaven-defying Dao cultivator in the prophet progeny. She was so powerful that she was second only to him among the successors of the 7 absolutes sect's 7 absolutes. Apart from that, he had also heard about how Mu-yi had cursed the patriarch of the dragons to death. For this reason, he had a good impression of Mu-yi before he met her. Then, do you remember where you came into contact with that aura? Mu Yi was not displeased by Duan Lingtian's rudeness. Instead, she asked this question. Her question confused Duan Lingtian. Where did he come into contact with that aura? Gasp! Duan Lingtian took a deep breath and started to recall carefully. After recalling for a while, he really recalled it. Clarity City Qiumu. Clarity City was a city at the edge of the western region. Qiumu was the young miss of the Qiu clan in Clarity City. Previously, before he went to Sin City in the central region, he had stayed in Clarity City for a few days. During those few days, he had gotten to know Qiumu and helped her solve some problems. When Duan Lingtian left Clarity City, he discovered Qiumu seemed to have feelings for him. Chapter 2391. Yes, Master. Upon hearing Duan Lingtian's question, Chen Yiru did not dare to be negligent. Who's he? Duan Lingtian asked in a deep voice as his eyes flashed coldly. His name is Ding Yijian. He's a four-tribulation bodiless celestial like me. Chen Yiru said. That person's biggest hobby is women. As long as he sees a beautiful woman, he will want to possess her. 30 years ago, I couldn't stand his behavior, so I fought with him. After exchanging a few blows, there is no clear victor. They are evenly matched. So he's a four-tribulation bodiless celestial. Mu Yi finally understood Chen Yiru's words. No wonder I couldn't find anything about him. She finally understood why she could not find anything about the person who killed Qiumu, even with the help of the 7 Absolute Sects Red Dust Progenies Information Network. As it turned out, the culprit was a four-tribulation bodiless celestial. It was only natural that she could not find anything about a four-tribulation bodiless celestial with the help of the Red Dust Progenies Information Network. After all, the Red Dust Progenies Information Network did not extend to the bodiless celestials in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. Four-tribulation bodiless celestial? Duan Lingtian's eyes flashed coldly as he asked. Do you know where he usually stays? Based on my calculations, it's less than 100 years until the next bodiless celestial tribulation. If there's no accident, he should be in his cultivation place, waiting for the next bodiless celestial tribulation. Chen Yiru said. And his place of cultivation is in the northern region. Take me there. Duan Lingtian's eyes turned cold. Duan Lingtian was not surprised that Ding Yijian cultivated in the northern region. After all, he had heard from Chen Yiru that most of the reclusive powerhouses, including bodiless celestials, lived in seclusion in the northern region. Even Nie Wutian, the powerhouse ranked first on the Supreme Saint ranking, had lived in seclusion in the northern region before he ascended. Yes, Master. Chen Yiru replied respectfully. At the same time, Duan Lingtian looked at the oracle man and said, Junior Uncle Prophet, I'd like to enter the Sword Saint secret zone after I avenge my friend. Duan Lingtian had made an agreement with the oracle man. As long as Mu Yi, the direct disciple of the old prophet, and the current successor of the prophet progeny, the second absolute of the 7 Absolute sect, returned, she would be able to enter the Sword Saint secret zone. However, it seemed like they had no choice but to postpone their plan. Duan Ling, the old prophet, could understand Duan Lingtian's feelings, so he nodded in agreement. Duan Lingtian bade farewell to Kuer, Feng Tianwu, and the others before he led Chen Yiru away from the snow-capped mountain. They made their way north to the glaciers in the northern region. The northern region was covered in snow all year round. In the north of the northern region, the entire land had turned into a glacier. Looking from afar, it was crystal clear. It set off the snow that was falling from the sky, forming a perfect world of ice and snow. There are quite a lot of people. Under Chen Yiru's guidance, Duan Lingtian saw many people as they made their way north. However, most of them were only at the Saint Celestial stage. Up until now, I found more than a dozen people at the 7th form of the Saint Celestial stage or above. It's a good thing they haven't appeared yet. Otherwise, the Supreme Saint ranking would have changed again. Duan Lingtian thought to himself. Duan Lingtian was also aware that ever since bodiless celestials were exposed, The Supreme Saint ranking had lost its authority in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint land. There were fewer and fewer people who talked about it. Even when people talked about it, they would criticize it or suggest it was a ranking of the bodiless celestials in the Dao Martial Saint land. Master, this is one of the places where bodiless celestials gather in the northern region. It did not take long before Chen Yiru's voice rang in Duan Lingtian's ears. He immediately regained his senses and looked ahead. With just a glance, Duan Lingtian saw many spacious mansions in the middle of the ice and snow. Above these mansions, there seemed to be a layer of transparent light barrier that completely blocked out the snow that was falling from the sky. Ding Yijian's cultivation place is here. Duan Lingtian was shocked when he heard Chen Yiru's voice again. He swept his gaze across the mansions in front of him. Where's his cultivation place? It's here, Chen Yiru said to Duan Lingtian, as he hovered above a spacious mansion. He looked down at the mansion below him. See if he's here, Duan Lingtian said with a glint in his eyes. Currently, his divine consciousness was only at the level of an eminent celestial. It was impossible for him to probe a four-tribulation bodiless celestial. He might be able to detect Ding Yijian's presence, but if Ding Yijian attacked him with his divine consciousness, his soul would definitely be injured. For this reason, Duan Lingtian asked Chen Yiru to do it for him. Yes, Chen Yiru replied respectfully as he extended his divine consciousness to check if Ding Yijian, the four-tribulation bodiless celestial, was in the mansion. Elementary devouring tactic. While Chen Yiru was probing Ding Yijian's cultivation place with his divine consciousness, Duan Lingtian did not remain idle. He cast the assist-type divine ability, the elementary devouring tactic, and recklessly devoured the heaven and earth spirit energy in the surroundings. In just a blink of an eye, the heaven and earth spirit energy in the surroundings was completely devoured by Duan Lingtian. What's going on? Why did the heaven and earth spirit energy suddenly disappear? What's going on? Why did the heaven and earth spirit energy suddenly become so thin? Damn it! What's going on? With Duan Lingtian as the center, the secluded powerhouses who were cultivating in the surroundings, including the place where the bodiless celestials were gathered, were all interrupted. In the blink of an eye, the heaven and earth spirit chi suddenly disappeared, and even became extremely thin. This was undoubtedly a huge blow to them who were cultivating. At the same time they were puzzled. Why did the heaven and earth spirit energy suddenly disappear? Just as the group of hermit experts were interrupted, Chen Yiru's consciousness, which had enveloped the mansion beneath his feet, also received a response. Master, Ding Yijian is in his cultivation place. At the same time, Chen Yiru greeted Duan Lingtian. Chen Yiru. A figure shot out of the mansion and shot up into the sky like a rocket. In just a blink of an eye, the figure appeared near Duan Lingtian and Chen Yiru. Chapter 2392. During this period of time, Duan Lingtian, the sect leader of the Seven Absolute Sect, was the most popular person in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint land. Whether it was ordinary celestials or bodiless celestials, people were talking about him every day. For this reason, it was not difficult for the bodiless celestials to recognize Duan Lingtian after they recognized Chen Yiru. Why is Duan Lingtian here? Based on his actions, it seems like he came with Chen Yiru to look for Ding Yijian. As soon as he arrived, the heaven and earth spirit energy in the surroundings became thinner. Could the change in the heaven and earth spirit energy have something to do with him? I don't know. A group of bodiless celestials stood in the distance and discussed among themselves as they looked at Duan Lingtian. However, they did not dare to approach Duan Lingtian. Among them, the strongest person was a five-tribulation bodiless celestial. For this reason, they did not dare to act recklessly in front of Duan Lingtian. After all, Duan Lingtian was someone who could even force Di Chun, a five-tribulation bodiless celestial from the dragons, to kneel and kowtow as he begged for mercy. The few five-tribulation bodiless celestials among them knew they would not stand a chance against Di Chun, a five-tribulation bodiless celestial from the dragons. Therefore, they could only keep a low profile in front of Di Chun. How could they, who were inferior to Di Chun, dare to act recklessly in front of Duan Lingtian? Humph! Duan Lingtian snorted coldly under the watchful eyes of the others. In just a blink of an eye, Duan Lingtian's killing intent surged out of his body. It was as though he had transformed into a peerless god of slaughter. His imposing aura was enough to pressure the bodiless celestials present on the scene. Bang! Duan Lingtian took a step forward and stomped his foot on the void. The void immediately cracked open, and dense crisscrossing cracks spread out like a spider web in the sky. When Duan Lingtian stepped forward, Ding Yijian was so shocked that his heart sank. Immediately, he lowered his head towards Duan Lingtian in shock and fear. Other than fear on his face, there was only reverence. Right now, Ding Yijian only had one thought in his mind. He hoped that Duan Lingtian, the sect leader of the Seven Absolute sect, would overlook the conflict between him and Chen Yiru in the past. Moreover, he and Chen Yiru didn't suffer any losses in the conflict back then. In his opinion, it was a small matter. Since he had admitted defeat, Duan Lingtian, as the sect leader of the Seven Absolute sect, would not do anything to him. However, Ding Yijian would never have thought that he would be so lucky. Duan Lingtian did not come to avenge Chen Yiru. Instead, he came to avenge one of the women he had killed. Perhaps, Duan Lingtian had forgotten that he had once humiliated a woman named Qiu Muqing. However, Duan Lingtian was here for that woman. Bastard! As Duan Lingtian's celestial origin energy and saint origin surged out of his body, his eyes turned colder as he looked at Ding Yijian. Ding Yijian felt as though he was in a world of ice and snow. Although it was true that he was in a world of ice and snow, his cultivation base was not affected. However, with his cultivation base, he did not feel cold at all in this world of ice and snow. However, the coldness that came from Duan Lingtian caused his heart to feel as though it had stiffened. Swoosh! The sound of sword whistling reverberated in the air. It was like the blooming of a cactus. When Duan Lingtian raised his hand, a solidified sword ray shot out from his palm. As soon as the sword ray left Duan Lingtian's palm, it moved so fast that Ding Yijian did not even have time to react to it. It tore through the air like a flash of light. Before Ding Yijian could react, the sword ray was already inches away from him. No! When Ding Yijian finally regained his senses, the sword ray that came from Duan Lingtian had already reached the space between his eyebrows. Ding Yijian only had time to cry out in his heart. In the next moment, spurt! A soft sound rang in the air as Ding Yijian's glabella was pierced, and his soul was crushed. Although Ding Yijian was a bodiless celestial, and his body was different from ordinary humans, his glabella was connected to his soul. Once it was pierced, his soul would be crushed as well. Moreover, when Duan Lingtian swung his sword, not only did it crush Ding Yijian's soul, but it also unleashed a wave of destructive energy that destroyed Ding Yijian's soul without leaving a trace behind. Under such circumstances, it was impossible for Ding Yijian to survive. Crack! 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 After his soul was obliterated, Ding Yijian's body was like the moon in the water. Once it was shattered, it perished between heaven and earth, leaving no trace of its existence. The entire place fell silent immediately. Among the bodiless celestials present on the scene, only the 5 tribulation bodiless celestials had seen Duan Lingtian's sword ray clearly. It seemed as though the sword ray had come from outer space and could destroy everything. So this is the sword-wielding art, the 3rd stage of the Sword Dao mental cultivation method, the Sovereign Heart Sword, created by Sword Saint Feng Qingyang. The 5 tribulation bodiless celestials were shocked. Even if they did not die from Duan Lingtian's sword ray, they would be severely injured. If Duan Lingtian had attacked a few more times, they would not have been able to withstand it. It's said that when Duan Lingtian forced Di Chun, a 5 tribulation bodiless celestial from the dragons, to kneel and beg for mercy, he had even used the 4th stage of the Sovereign Heart Sword, the body and sword fusion. At that time, his strength was comparable to a 6 tribulation bodiless celestial. Now his strength is comparable to a peak 5 tribulation bodiless celestial. Even if Duan Lingtian had only used the 3rd stage of the Sovereign Heart Sword, The 5 tribulation bodiless celestials present on the scene knew they were not a match for him, let alone the 4th stage of the sovereign heart sword. After killing Ding Yijian, the killing intent that swept out from Duan Ling Tian's body vanished without a trace. The sharp aura on his body had completely vanished as well. You can rest in peace, Duan Ling Tian muttered to himself as he looked in the southwest direction. Qiu Muqing had died in the western region in that direction. It seems like things aren't as simple as they seem. At this moment, the bodiless celestials present on the scene realized things were not as simple as they had thought. Initially, they had thought Duan Ling Tian had stood up for Chen Yiru because of the conflict between Chen Yiru and Ding Yijian. However, Chen Yiru did not suffer any losses in that matter. When bodiless celestials saw a 7 tribulation bodiless celestial, or above, they would feel like they were on a pilgrimage to a god. As it turned out, Duan Ling Tian had made the right choice by taking a detour back to the 7 absolute sect's temporary estate. Otherwise, Di Huan, the supreme elder of the dragons, would have caught up to them as soon as they left. Currently, even if Duan Ling Tian used all his techniques, his strength was only comparable to a 6 tribulation bodiless celestial. He could not be compared to a 7 tribulation bodiless celestial like Di Huan. If he were to face Di Huan head-on, he would be reduced to a fish on the chopping board, completely at Di Huan's mercy. At the 7 absolute sect's temporary estate on a nameless snow-capped mountain, Junior Uncle Prophet, I've dealt with my matter. If there's no problem with the others, we can enter the Sword Saint's secret zone now. As soon as Duan Ling Tian returned, he could not wait to look for the Oracle Man. He was eager to enter the Sword Saint's secret zone. The others that Duan Ling Tian mentioned were, naturally, the successors of the other absolutes of the 7 absolute sect. Currently, the successors of the 3rd absolute, the Kratos progeny, and the 4th absolute, the Dark Shadow progeny, had died in the hands of the people from the dragons. There were only 6 successors left in the 7 absolute sect. They were Duan Ling Tian, Mu Yi, Feng Tianwu, Han Xuanai, Nangong Chen and Nangong Yi. All right. The old prophet could sense Duan Ling Tian's eagerness to enter the Sword Saint's secret zone as soon as possible. After replying to Duan Ling Tian, he went to look for the successors of the various absolutes. About 15 minutes later, Duan Ling Tian received a message from the Oracle Man: depart immediately and look for a secluded place to enter the Sword Saint's secret zone. Soon after, the group left the nameless snowy peak and headed northeast. Apart from Duan Ling Tian and the successors of the absolutes, there were also the Oracle Man, Ke, Qinghua, and Gan Ru Yan. However, only Duan Ling Tian and the successors of the absolutes were allowed to enter the Sword Saint's secret zone. Senior Prophet. On the way, Gan Ru Yan looked at the Oracle Man and asked eagerly, "Can I enter the Sword Saint's secret zone?" Only the sect leader of the 7 absolute sect can decide who can enter the Sword Saint's secret zone. The Oracle Man glanced at Duan Ling Tian and said. Gan Ru Yan immediately looked at Duan Ling Tian. No. Before Gan Ru Yan could say anything, Duan Ling Tian rejected her. According to the warning passed down in the 7 absolute sect, those below the 7th form of the Saint Celestial stage shouldn't enter the Sword Saint secret zone. According to Senior Feng Qingyang's warning, those below the 7th form of the Saint Celestial stage will most likely die if they enter the Sword Saint secret zone. The 7th form of the Saint Celestial stage. The moment Duan Ling Tian's words left his mouth, it was obvious he was trying to push Gan Ru Yan away. Although Gan Ru Yan's cultivation speed was fast, and her cultivation base had improved, she had only just broken through to the 6th form of the Saint Celestial stage. She was still quite a distance away from breaking through to the 7th form of the Saint Celestial stage. Gan Ru Yan was speechless when she heard Duan Ling Tian's words. Disappointment was written all over her face. However, she did not say anything else. Now that Duan Ling Tian had told her about the warning that had been passed down in the 7 Absolutes sect for generations, she did not dare to enter the Sword Saint's secret zone, even if he did. Those below the 7th form of the Saint Celestial stage would most likely die if they entered the Sword Saint secret zone. Although she wanted to enter the Sword Saint secret zone to search for fortuitous encounters, she dismissed the thought when she thought about how she would most likely die if she entered the Sword Saint secret zone. Compared to his life, those so-called fortuitous encounters were not worth mentioning at all. After all, her life was the most important thing. If she lost her life, she would lose everything. "Master, can I enter?" Chen Yiru asked as he looked at Duan Lingtian, with an eager expression on his face. Junior Uncle Prophet said there's an age limit for those who can enter the Sword Saint secret zone. Only those below the age of 100 can enter. Duan Lingtian said, "When the Sword Saint secret zone opens, try to see if you can enter. If you can enter as well. Who knows, you might be able to obtain some fortuitous encounters as well." Duan Lingtian had never been a stingy person. Although Chen Yiru had not been with him for a long time, he had sworn on the lightning penalty oath, so he did not doubt Chen Yiru's loyalty. If Chen Yiru could enter the Sword Saint secret zone, Duan Lingtian would definitely allow him to enter. "Thank you, Master." Chen Yiru thanked Duan Lingtian. His eyes lit up as though he had seen a ray of hope. He was relieved when he heard his master's words. It would be good if he could enter the Sword Saint secret zone. However, there was nothing he could do if he could not enter the Sword Saint secret zone. After all, he could not change his age just because he wanted to. "Let's go here." As they traveled all the way towards the northeast, Duan Lingtian took a fancy to an ice mountain valley in the end. Based on the ice that formed the iceberg valley, one could tell it had been frozen for a long time. This ice had existed for quite some time. It was at least 1,000 years old, or even 10,000 years old. Moreover, the iceberg valley was surrounded by a thick white mist. From afar, it looked no different from snow falling from the sky. If an ordinary passerby didn't use their divine sense to investigate, they wouldn't be able to discover the location of this valley at all. "This place is not bad." The oracle man looked around and nodded. He felt that Duan Lingtian had chosen a good place. The others did not have any objections as well. After they entered the iceberg valley, Duan Lingtian and the others' figures were concealed by the white mist. From the outside, it was impossible to tell they were in the valley. This box contains the key to the Sword Saint secret zone that has been passed down for generations in the Seven Absolutes sect. When they arrived at the Ice Mountain Valley, the old prophet raised his hand and took out a black box before he passed it to Duan Lingtian. "There's a restriction formation on the box. It said that it was left behind by Patriarch Feng Qingyang. It said that only the successor of the Fog Rain progeny, the first absolute of the Seven Absolutes sect, can open it. As for how to open it, I'm not sure. You can try." Chapter 2394. This box. After taking the box from the oracle man, Duan Lingtian discovered it was heavy. He did not know what material it was made of. Even when he passed the box to Chen Yiru and asked him to open it with his strength, as a four-tribulation bodiless celestial, it did not budge. Let alone opening it, there were no signs of it being opened at all. "Master, there's nothing I can do." In the end, Chen Yiru handed the box back to Duan Lingtian helplessly. When the box returned to Duan Lingtian's hand, the cracks in the void in front of him began to close. This was the result of him using his full strength just now. His power had shattered the space and left behind cracks in the void. Elementary devouring tactic. As soon as Duan Lingtian took the box, he immediately cast his assist-type divine ability to absorb the heaven and earth spirit energy in the surroundings to strengthen the energy in his body. Not only that, but he also cast the sword-wielding art that was given to him by the third stage of the Supreme Sword Tao mental cultivation method, the Sovereign Heart Sword. Whoosh! The sound of sword whistling rang in the air, as Duan Lingtian shot out a ray of sword chi from his palm toward the box. Chi! 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 In just a blink of an eye, cracks appeared in the void in the wake of the sword chi. Moreover, the cracks were so large that it would take at least 15 minutes for them to close up. Duan Lingtian thought the box would not budge, even if he cast an attack comparable to a 5-tribulation bodiless celestial, since Chen Yiru had attacked with all his strength. However, to his surprise, The sword chi that shot out of the box was not something he had expected. When the sharp sword light from his palm came into contact with the closed part of the box, it instantly melted away. The white sword aura turned into a white liquid at this moment, swirling around the closed part of the box. Crack! In the next moment, along with a soft sound, the box in Duan Lingtian's hand opened. Seeing this scene, Duan Lingtian was stunned. Then he came back to his senses and faintly realized what was going on. It seems like the formation on the box is closely related to the Supreme Sword Dao mental cultivation method, the Sovereign Heart Sword, that Senior Feng Qingyang left behind. I used the technique bestowed upon me by the Supreme Sword Dao mantra, the Sovereign Heart Sword. When I touched this box, I didn't even need to expend much effort to open it. At this time, no matter how slow Duan Lingtian's reaction was, he still reacted in time. Master, that sword strike of yours is only comparable to the attack of a 5 tribulation bodiless celestial, right? How did you open the box so easily? Chen Yiru asked in disbelief. The others also looked at Duan Lingtian in confusion. They didn't understand what was going on either. Although Duan Lingtian's attack was stronger than Chen Yiru's, it was not much stronger. However, the difference between the two attacks was like heaven and earth. It's because of the legacy left behind by Senior Feng Qingyang, the Supreme Sword Dao mantra, the Sovereign Heart Sword. Earlier, I used the technique bestowed upon me by the Sovereign Heart Sword to remove the restrictions on the box. As Duan Lingtian explained, he looked at the box that had been opened. There was a copper ball lying quietly in the box. The surroundings of the copper ball were engraved with some complicated patterns. It looked like a picture, but it also looked like some kind of text. All in all, Duan Lingtian was completely unable to discern whether the complicated veined patterns on it were patterns or words. Is this the key to the Sword Saint secret zone? Duan Lingtian picked up the copper ball and looked at it carefully. He did not see anything special about the inscriptions. The gazes of the others also landed on the copper ball. Try to infuse your saint origin into it. With that thought in mind, Duan Lingtian extended his hand and infused his saint origin into the copper ball. During this process, Duan Lingtian discovered that the copper ball in the copper ball was not small at all. The copper ball was like an insatiable child, as it greedily absorbed Duan Lingtian's saint origin. It only stopped when more than half of the saint origin in Duan Lingtian's body had been absorbed. It was also at this moment that Duan Lingtian noticed a strong repulsive force suddenly emitted from the copper ball, and it shook his hand away. Following that, the copper ball left Duan Lingtian's hand and floated in the air on its own. The inscriptions around the copper ball that looked like drawings and words lit up at this moment, dazzling and eye-catching. Apart from that, the light from the inscriptions around the copper ball became brighter as time passed. This is just as the gazes of the others, including the old man of heavenly secrets, were attracted by the copper ball boom. A loud explosion reverberated in the air. In the next moment everyone, including Duan Lingtian, felt as though they had been blinded by daylight. It was extremely dazzling, as though something had exploded. At the same time, a vast and gentle power slapped on their bodies, pushing them away. Although the group of people was pushed away, they were not injured. This was because the force was very gentle and did not possess any offensive power. It merely pushed them away. When they stopped and took a closer look, they discovered something else. At the place where the copper ball had been, there was now another black hole. The black hole that appeared out of thin air had a whirlpool revolving around it. It seemed to be maintaining the operation of the black hole that looked like a crack in the void. This was because the black hole did not show any signs of closing since it had appeared. Is this the entrance to the Sword Saint secret zone? Duan Lingtian and the others had the same thought when they saw the pitch-black hole that led to an unknown destination. Duan Lingtian and the others' attention was attracted by the black hole in front of them that was the entrance to the Sword Saint secret zone. At this moment, the black holes in the other mundane realms that were shrouded by a mysterious force had also returned to normal. This was because the mysterious force had disappeared without a trace. That's the Beyond Heaven secret zone has opened? Heavens! After 30,000 years, the Beyond Heaven secret zone has finally opened again. The people in the mundane realms who discovered the black hole had returned to normal could not help but exclaim in surprise. These mundane realms included the mundane realm, where Duan Lingtian was from in his previous life. The mundane realm Earth was located in was a vast universe. It was also a large mundane realm. There were countless planets and galaxies in it. Earth, on the other hand, was as insignificant as a speck of dust in this large mundane realm. However, many years ago, when Earth was still planet Yanhuang, although it was very small, it was one of the few cultivation planets in this large mundane realm. The so-called origin planet of cultivation referred to the earliest planets that relied on absorbing the spiritual qi of heaven and earth to strengthen themselves. Back then, planet Yanhuang, as one of the planets where cultivation originated, had given birth to many cultivators. Among them were the various figures in the ancient myths and legends that Duan Lingtian had heard of in his past life, such as Sun Wukong, Zhu Beiji, Neza, and so on later on. Due to the increasing number of cultivators on planet Yanhuang, the heaven and earth spirit energy on planet Yanhuang rapidly dried up. At this time, the cultivators on planet Yanhuang began to migrate on a large scale. In the end, the number of cultivators on planet Yanhuang, which was also known as Earth, had dwindling heaven and earth spirit energy. Not only that, but the number of cultivators on planet Yanhuang also became weaker and weaker. Due to this reason, during Duan Lingtian's era, even a formal martial grandmaster like him could do whatever he wanted in the world. The cultivators who migrated from planet Yanhuang, as well as the cultivators from several other planets of origin, also established their own orthodoxies in some planets and galaxies with rich world energy, and left their own inheritances behind. The Celestial Masters sect was an ancient sect that had migrated from planet Yanhuang. The founder of the Celestial Masters sect was none other than Celestial Master Zhang from ancient myths and legends. Currently, the Celestial Masters sect controlled an entire galaxy. Its headquarters was located on a planet that was several times larger than Earth. The Beyond Heaven secret zone has opened. When the news spread to the Celestial Masters sect, the entire sect was shocked. It has been nearly 20,000 years since the key to the Beyond Heaven secret zone appeared in our mundane realm and was used. After 20,000 years, the last key to the Beyond Heaven secret zone has finally appeared and been used. Only when all the keys to the Beyond Heaven secret zone appear and are used will the entrance and exit of the Beyond Heaven secret zone be opened. This time, I hope the powerhouses of the Celestial Masters sect will be able to obtain great fortuitous encounters in the Beyond Heaven secret zone, so that the overall strength of the Celestial Masters sect will be greatly improved. Unfortunately, the Celestial Masters sect isn't the only sect that knows about the entrance and exit of the Beyond Heaven secret zone. In other words, the powerhouses from the Celestial Masters sect won't only have to face powerhouses from other mundane realms, but they'll also have to face powerhouses from the same mundane realm. After learning that the Beyond Heaven secret zone had opened, the entire Celestial Masters sect was in an uproar. Currently, in the mundane realm where Earth was located, the Celestial Masters sect was not the only one who had learned about the opening of the Beyond Heaven secret zone. Even the sectless cultivators from other forces had rushed to the entrance and exit of the Beyond Heaven secret zone. Chapter 2395. There were a total of 5 keys in the Beyond Heaven secret zone. They were located in 5 different mundane realms. As long as a key was found and used, the entrance to the Beyond Heaven secret zone would appear. Naturally, before all the keys were found and used, the entrances and exits would be concealed by a mysterious energy. Due to this reason, it was impossible to enter the Beyond Heaven secret zone through them. Only when all of the keys were used and the last entrance and exit of the Beyond Heaven secret zone appeared would the mysterious energy above the other entrances and exits disappear. At that time, the Beyond Heaven secret zone would officially open. This time, the key to the Beyond Heaven secret zone that Duan Lingtian had used was the last key to appear, and was used. For this reason, after Duan Lingtian used the key, the Beyond Heaven secret zone would open. Naturally, Duan Lingtian was unaware of this. In the northern region, in an iceberg valley shrouded in white mist, the Sword Saint secret zone is finally open. Our 7 Absolutes sect will regain its former glory. The oracle man looked at the huge black hole in front of him with a pious and excited expression on his face. As the former successor of the prophet progeny in the 7 Absolutes sect, he was the most senior person in the 7 Absolutes sect. He was excited when he saw the hope of the 7 Absolutes sect rising again. At the same time, he also hoped that the 7 Absolutes sect would regain its former glory when Sword Saint Feng Qingyang was still alive. Now that the Sword Saint secret zone had opened, and the successor of the Fog Rain progeny, the first absolute of the 7 Absolutes sect, was about to enter, he could already see the 7 Absolutes sect rising to prominence. However, he was unaware that the entrance to the Beyond Heaven secret zone was not big. The black hole in front of him was not the entrance to the Sword Saint secret zone. Instead, it was the entrance to the Beyond Heaven secret zone. Moreover, everything in the Beyond Heaven secret zone was not left behind by Feng Qingyang, the founding ancestor of the 7 Absolutes sect. Moreover, the people from the 7 Absolutes sect were not the only ones who would enter the Beyond Heaven secret zone. There were also powerhouses from the other 4 mundane realms. Apart from that, the number of powerhouses from the other 4 mundane realms was terrifying as well. There was once a mundane realm where the entrance to the Beyond Heaven secret zone changed. When the Beyond Heaven secret zone officially opened, thousands of people swarmed into it. There was no lack of powerful bodiless celestials among these people. Sandow, we should arrive at the Sword Saint secret zone after we pass through this black hole. Senior Uncle Prophet said that according to the legend passed down in the 7 Absolutes sect, those above the age of 100 are not allowed to enter the Sword Saint secret zone. Why don't you try and see if the sayings passed down by our 7 Absolutes sect are false? Duan Lingtian looked at Chen Yiru and said, "Yes, master." Chen Yiru nodded and flew out, arriving in front of the black hole. Standing in front of the black hole, he could clearly feel an oppressive aura. This aura came from the power that stabilized the black hole around it. He had a feeling that if his body rashly came into contact with these powers, he would directly turn into ashes and completely disappear from this world. It doesn't seem to reject me. When Chen Yiru moved closer to the black hole, he did not feel any rejection. His courage grew as he leaned forward and touched the black hole. In just a blink of an eye, his hand had already touched the black hole. "Master, I should be able to enter the black hole. I can feel a suction force wrapping around my hand. It's getting stronger and stronger, as though it's trying to suck me in." Chen Yiru said to Duan Lingtian, after his body was sucked into the black hole, and only half of his body was left. "You can enter first." Duan Lingtian nodded. He was happy for Chen Yiru. After all, as a 4 tribulation bodiless celestial, he should be able to obtain many benefits from entering the secret zone left behind by Senior Feng Qingyang. "Master, I'll wait for you inside." Chen Yiru only managed to say these words before he was completely sucked into the black hole. The people present on the scene only regained their senses after Chen Yiru was sucked into the black hole. Isn't it said that only those below the age of 100 can enter the Sword Saint secret zone? Duan Lingtian's servant seems to be a 4 tribulation bodiless celestial, right? He's an old freak who has lived for more than 5,000 years. If even he can enter the Sword Saint secret zone, who can't? Nangongyi said in shock. What's going on? The oracle man was confused as well. According to the warnings passed down in the 7 Absolutes sect, those above the age of 100 were indeed not allowed to enter the Sword Saint secret zone. Moreover, this warning was not added by the disciples of the 7 Absolutes sect. It was said that Patriarch Feng Qingyang had personally said it. Perhaps there's no age restriction for bodiless celestials? At this moment, Duan Lingtian speculated. The most direct way to find out a person's age is to check the body before checking the soul. Perhaps it's because bodiless celestials don't have a human body that they can bypass this restriction. In fact, Duan Lingtian was right. The Sword Saint secret zone was actually the Beyond Heaven secret zone. It did not restrict bodiless celestials from entering. It only restricted those above the age of 100, who were not bodiless celestials. If one was not a bodiless celestial, and above the age of 100, one would not be able to enter the Beyond Heaven secret zone. In other words, currently, those who entered the Beyond Heaven secret zone from the various mundane realms were either powerful bodiless celestials or monstrous geniuses. After all, those below the 7th form of the Saint Celestial stage, who entered the Beyond Heaven secret zone, would most likely die. Duan Lingtian, the two of us will go in first. You should hurry as well. Nangongyi bade farewell to Duan Lingtian before he and Nangong Chen entered the black hole together. It was as though they had never been there. Junior Uncle Prophet, how long does the entrance to the Sword Saint secret zone last? Duan Lingtian asked as he looked at the Oracle Man. I heard it's 10 years. The Oracle Man replied. This was a saying passed down from generation to generation in the Seven Absolute sect. It originated from ancestor Feng Qingyang of the Seven Absolute sect. 10 years. Upon hearing the Oracle Man's words, Duan Lingtian turned to look at Gan Ruyan. Gan Ruyan's eyes lit up when she heard the Oracle Man's words. Chapter 2396. Master, didn't you hear what he said earlier? If you're not a bodiless celestial, you shouldn't be able to enter the Sword Saint secret zone if you're older than 100 years old. Gan Ruyan was touched when she heard her master's words. She could not help but remind her master. She believed Duan Lingtian's words. Guardian Lingtian, it's just a guess. Since Senior Sword Saint didn't restrict bodiless celestials whose souls are more than 100 years old, why would he restrict non-bodiless celestials whose bodies are more than 100 years old? Based on Qinghua's words, it was obvious he did not care about Duan Lingtian's guess at all. Since Qinghua was used to calling Duan Lingtian Guardian Lingtian, he continued to address Duan Lingtian as such. Duan Lingtian could not help but correct Qinghua when he heard Qinghua's words. Guardian Qinghua, why don't you think about it? Although Senior Feng Qingyang's strength was heaven-defying and could kill an 8 tribulation bodiless celestial, his cultivation base was only that of an eminent celestial. In other words, his soul is only at the level of an eminent celestial. How could he set up a formation to prevent bodiless celestials from entering if his soul is only at the level of an eminent celestial? After all, a bodiless celestial's soul is made of a bodiless celestial's soul. Duan Lingtian added. Qinghua fell silent upon hearing Duan Lingtian's words. After a while Qinghua's eyes flashed as he said, Since you say so, I'll give it a try. If the entrance of the Sword Saint secret zone rejects non-bodiless celestials, who are more than 100 years old, I'm sure I'll be able to feel the resistance before I even touch it. As soon as he finished speaking, he did not wait for Duan Lingtian and the others to reply before he flew toward the black hole in the sky. Qinghua instinctively wanted to stop as he approached the black hole. Boom! Accompanied by a loud bang, the mysterious force around the black hole that had stabilized the black hole suddenly began to boil. Then ripples spread out, slamming into Qinghua and sending him flying. Wah! As for Qinghua, who had been sent flying, he spat out a large mouthful of blood along the way, looking battered and exhausted. When Qinghua finally managed to stabilize himself, he smiled bitterly as he looked at the black hole floating in the air. Master, are you all right? Upon seeing this, Gan Ruyan could not be bothered with anything else. She immediately went to Qinghua's side and asked worriedly. I'm fine. Qinghua shook his head and smiled bitterly. If I had believed Guardian Lingtian from the start, things wouldn't have turned out this way. Now, Blue Fire was completely sure. Duan Lingtian was right. In fact, Duan Lingtian's guess and subsequent additions were just a blind cat running into a dead mouse. This was not the reason the Beyond Heaven secret zone's entrance and exit were restricted. Naturally, Duan Lingtian only found out the reason after he had entered the Beyond Heaven secret zone for a while. At that time, he would feel embarrassed for the explanation he had given Qinghua. After all, it was all nonsense in front of the truth. As expected, at this moment, Duan Lingtian was certain he had guessed correctly. Brother Ling Tian, you're really amazing. How did you figure it out? Han Shu and I looked at Duan Ling Tian in awe. Her eyes were filled with admiration. Sect leader is really amazing. The oracle man chimed in. As for Ke, Duan Si Ling, and Feng Tianwu, although they did not say anything, their eyes shone brightly as they looked at Duan Ling Tian. Duan Si Ling in particular had a hint of admiration in the depths of her eyes. Although Duan Ling Tian had experienced many similar gazes in the past, he could not help but feel a little smug when faced with the admiring gazes from the surroundings. At this moment, even Mu Yi, the oracle man's direct disciple, and the successor of the prophet progeny, the second absolute of the seven absolute sect, looked at Duan Ling Tian with a hint of surprise in her eyes, even though she did not look at him with admiration. In the past, she had thought that the current sect leader of the seven absolute sect, who had always been stronger than her, was merely lucky to be stronger than her. She did not expect this to happen. She did not expect the sect leader of the seven absolute sect would be able to figure out the reason why the entrance to the Sword Saint secret zone was restricted to those who were over 100 years old, but not those who were over 100 years old based on ancestor Feng Qingyang's cultivation base. As the saying went, the higher one climbs, the harder one falls. At this moment, Duan Ling Tian was still in high spirits. However, he did not know he was about to fall to his death. Junior Uncle Prophet, it's time for me to enter as well. After a while, Duan Ling Tian regained his senses and looked at the oracle man as he said this. If there was someone who was most eager to enter the Sword Saint secret zone, it would undoubtedly be Duan Ling Tian. Currently, there were 3 people who had entered the Sword Saint secret zone before Duan Ling Tian. For this reason, Duan Ling Tian was even more eager to enter the Sword Saint secret zone. However, before he entered, he still had to greet the oracle man. Go on. The oracle man nodded when he heard Duan Ling Tian's words. At the same time, he said with a hopeful expression on his face, I hope you'll be able to obtain the legacy left behind by ancestor Feng Qingyang. If that's the case, with your current strength as a foundation, you'll be able to improve by leaps and bounds. Let alone catch up to ancestral master Feng Qingyang. You might even surpass him. There was a reason why the elder of heavenly secrets said this. After all, even the patriarch of the seven absolute sect, Feng Qingyang, was only comparable to a 5 tribulation bodiless celestial when he was an eminent celestial with the 5th stage of the sovereign heart sword, the heart sword amalgamation. However, the current sect leader of the seven absolute sect was also an eminent celestial. However, his strength was comparable to a 6 tribulation bodiless celestial just by relying on the 4th stage of the sovereign heart sword, the brilliant sword heart. In terms of potential, he was even more outstanding than ancestor Feng Qingyang. For this reason, he was certain Duan Ling Tian would be able to kill a 9 tribulation bodiless celestial if he managed to obtain the legacy left behind by Feng Qingyang in the Sword Saint secret zone. Unfortunately, the oracle man was unaware that the Sword Saint secret zone did not exist at all. The black hole in front of him was the entrance to the Beyond Heaven secret zone. He was also unaware that the Beyond Heaven secret zone was filled with dangers. Apart from the dangers of the Beyond Heaven secret zone, one would also have to deal with the powerhouses from the other 4 mundane realms. Previously, it was considered a miracle that Feng Qingyang managed to survive the Beyond Heaven secret zone. After all, Feng Qingyang was not the only person from the mundane realm who had entered the Beyond Heaven secret zone. There were also some bodiless celestials from the dragons and phoenixes who had entered the Beyond Heaven secret zone as well. However, none of the bodiless celestials had managed to come out. Ke. Duan Ling Tian looked at his wife, Ke, and said, I'll leave Si Ling in your care after I enter the Beyond Heaven secret zone. Go ahead, brother Tian. Ke nodded. Be careful. All right. Duan Ling Tian did not notice the change in Si Ling's expression. In the depths of Ku Er's eyes, there was an unfathomable glint that flashed for an instant. It was as if a thought had popped up in his heart in an instant, and this thought could make him very excited. Si Ling, I'll be leaving for a while. After I leave, you have to listen to your mother. Do you understand? Duan Lingtian said as he looked at Duan Xiling affectionately. Daddy, Xiling has grown up. You don't have to talk to me like a child. I don't like it. Duan Xiling frowned playfully and said with a disdainful expression on her face. Haha, the oracle man and Qinghua laughed. Even the other women, including Mu Yi, the successor of the prophet progeny, could not help but laugh as well. In my eyes, you'll still be a child even after a few decades, Duan Lingtian said in annoyance after he regained his senses and chuckled. Xuanai Tianwu, junior sister Yi. At the same time, Duan Lingtian called out to Han Xuanai, Feng Tianwu, and Mu Yi. It's time for us to enter. We don't know what will happen after we enter. I'm even wondering if we'll end up in the same place after we enter. However, regardless of whether we'll end up in the same place or not, we have to be careful. As soon as Duan Lingtian finished speaking, he entered the black hole in a flash. The oracle man, Qing Xian, and Gan Ruyan thought the three people who entered the black hole behind Duan Lingtian were Han Xuanai, Feng Tianwu, and Mu Yi. Sister, take good care of Xiling. A soft and pleasant voice rang in the air before Feng Tianwu, and the other two women could make their move. At this moment, everyone's attention was on the woman, who looked identical to Gan Ruyan standing next to Duan Xiling Wush. The woman seemed to have turned into a gust of wind and disappeared before their eyes. It was as if she had never appeared. In the next moment, they subconsciously shifted their gazes to the black hole, only to find that there were circles of ripples spreading out from the black hole. This was enough to prove that someone had entered the black hole. Gan Ruyan was completely stunned. She was stunned not because Kerr had entered the Sword Saint secret zone after Duan Lingtian, but because of Kerr's speed. From the beginning until the end, she could not even catch a glimpse of Kerr. Her sister's strength was comparable to a 3 tribulation bodiless celestial. 3 tribulation bodiless celestial? Wow! Mother is amazing! Duan Xiling, who had just regained her senses, heard Mu Yi's words. Her eyes lit up with excitement. From today onward, Father is no longer the only idol of Xiling. Mother is Xiling's idol as well. At this moment, Duan Xiling had also begun to regard her mother as her idol. The reincarnation of a goddess. Sister Kerr is really amazing. Feng Tianwu had also heard about Kerr being the reincarnation of a goddess. When she learned about Kerr's current strength, she was also happy for Kerr. Mu Yi was the only one who had a complicated expression on her face. Initially, she thought only the current sect leader of the 7 Absolute sect, Duan Lingtian, was stronger than her. She did not expect even Duan Lingtian's wife would be stronger than her. Master, I'll go in first. Taking a deep breath, Mu Yi bid farewell to Elder Tianji before disappearing into the black hole as well. It was as if she had never appeared in the first place. Senior Uncle Prophet, I'll go in as well. Feng Tianwu followed suit. Senior Uncle Prophet, if I don't come out, please light an incense stick for my master on her death anniversary. Han Xuanai said to the oracle man, as she was about to enter the black hole. Silly girl, what nonsense are you talking about? The oracle man frowned when he heard her words. You must be careful when you enter the black hole. As for your master, you'll have to light an incense stick yourself. I'm just saying, what if? Han Xuanai smiled wryly. Her cultivation base was only at the 8th form of the Saint Celestial stage. She was only slightly stronger than Nangong and Duan Lingtian. She was not certain if she would be able to come out alive. There's no what if, the oracle man said solemnly. Han Xuanai sighed before she flew into the black hole as well. In just a blink of an eye, only the oracle man, Qinghua, Gan Ruyan, and Duan Xiling were left outside. Let's go back. This place is so secluded that I don't think anyone will be able to find this place. The oracle man said to Gan Ruyan and the others after Duan Lingtian and the others had entered the black hole. In just a blink of an eye, the 4 of them left the Ice Mountain Valley and returned to the nameless snowy peak, where the 7 Absolute sect's temporary estate was located. Meanwhile, Di Huan, the supreme elder of the dragons, was still searching desperately for Duan Lingtian. He wanted to find Duan Lingtian and avenge his son. Alas, his efforts were in vain. 3 months passed by in just a blink of an eye. Among the dragons, Di Chen's sixth bodiless celestial tribulation had finally arrived. Unfortunately, due to the fact that Duanling Tian was still alive and kicking, there was no way Di Chen could get rid of the obsession in his heart, due to Duanling Tian's humiliation. For this reason, he was powerless when faced with the bodiless celestial tribulation. The most important tribulation of the bodiless celestial tribulation was the inner demon tribulation. The inner demon tribulation targeted a person's heart. If there was any trauma in the person's heart, or if there was something in the person's past that the person was unwilling to recall, it would be magnified by the inner demon tribulation and affect the person undergoing the tribulation. Generally speaking, it was almost impossible for those who were affected by the inner demon tribulation to pass the tribulation. For this reason, when Emperor Chun encountered the sixth bodiless celestial tribulation, his obsession was magnified by the inner demon tribulation. Due to this reason, he did not succeed in overcoming the tribulation and was killed by the tribulation lightning. He was turned into ashes and disappeared from this world. After Di Chen was killed by the tribulation lightning, Di Huan, who had witnessed Di Chen's death, could not help but cry out in grief. Di Huan's cry rang in the dragon's ears, causing the dragons to be at a loss for words. This is the Supreme Elder's voice? It seems to be. Isn't today the day the Supreme Elder's son Di Chen is undergoing the heavenly tribulation? Why is he in such a state? It seems like Di Chen's heavenly tribulation doesn't bode well for him. Duanling Tian is still alive and well. Di Chen, who was once humiliated by Duanling Tian, has no way of resisting the inner demon tribulation of a bodiless celestial. I'm not surprised that he failed the inner demon tribulation. Keep your voice down. Are you seeking death? If the Supreme Elder hears your words, you'll be crippled even if you don't die. Soon after, all the dragons learned the reason for Di Huan's cry of grief. The dragons had lost a 5 tribulation bodiless celestial. In my opinion, Di Chen should have fought to the death with Duanling Tian, instead of kowtowing to Duanling Tian and begging for mercy. If he had chosen to die in Duanling Tian's hands, he would have gained a good reputation among the dragons. However, not only did he die in order to live for another 6 months, but his name is infamous among the dragons. Perhaps he didn't expect things to turn out this way. His father is the Supreme Elder. Perhaps he was confident his father would be able to avenge him. That's why he didn't take his obsession to heart. So what if he's the Supreme Elder? In the end, he still couldn't find Duanling Tian and avenge him. Similar discussions spread among the dragons. Duanling Tian, if I don't kill you, I Di Huan am not a human. After a few hours, Di Huan's cry of grief reverberated in the air again. It was so loud that the entire dragon's estate shook violently as though an earthquake had occurred. At the same time, Di Huan's voice rang in the air. At the same time, the void in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land tore open as tall figures appeared one after another. These tall figures either had the head of a cow, the head of a pig, or the head of a horse. All in all, these creatures all looked very strange, and there was nothing more strange than that. This is the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land? Chapter 2398. Ever since Duanling Tian returned to the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land and destroyed the inter-province transportation formation that the devil clans had set up in the lower province, many things had happened in the lower province. First, the devil clans discovered the inter-province transportation formation had been destroyed, and that the formation masters from the devil clans had been killed. Most of these formation grandmasters of the devil race had extraordinary backgrounds. Their deaths quickly alerted the forces behind them, and the bodiless celestials behind them were alerted as well. At the same time, a group of bodiless celestials from the human devil clan came out. Soon after, the bodiless celestials from the devil clans came out of their cultivation places in the land of exile and came to the Debussy subterranean. They worked together to forcefully open a space tunnel for the vanguard of the devil clans to enter the upper province. Powerful bodiless celestials could tear the space barrier between the Debussy subterranean and the upper province with their bare hands and travel freely between the lower and upper province. This was the case for Duan Lingtian. Currently, the long and narrow space rifts in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land were created by the bodiless celestials from the devil clans. The group of monsters that came out from the space rifts were the vanguard of the devil clans. The vanguard of the devil clans that had entered the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. Due to the appearance of the Seven Absolute Sect and the strength of the dragons, the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land no longer had their attention on the devil clans. For this reason, when the vanguard of the devil clans entered the upper province, the people from the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land did not even have time to react, let alone prepare for it. In just a blink of an eye, the vanguard of the devil clans slaughtered the people from the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. The devil clans. They're from the devil clans. The devil clans are invading. The devil clans are invading. At this moment, the humans who were fleeing in all directions in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land could not help but cry out in panic. This was because they discovered that the devil clans were stronger than them. The strength of the devil clans was far stronger than them. Although there were some powerful humans among them, they were quickly overwhelmed by the devil clans. Compared to the unity of the devil clans, the humans were like a plate of loose sand. In just a month, 1/10 of the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land had already fallen. At the same time, everyone in the Dao Martial Saint Land learned that the devil clans had invaded the upper province. Immediately, the entire world was shocked. The demons are invading? In the Seven Absolute Sect's temporary encampment on a nameless snowy mountain in the northern region, the Oracle man was shocked when he heard the news. Sect leader, didn't you say, before he returned to the upper province, he destroyed the cross-province teleportation formation that was almost completed in the lower province? How could this be? While the Oracle man was still in shock, he received more news about the Devil Clan's invasion of the upper province. It seems like the bodiless celestials from the Devil Clan have made their move. If a bodiless celestial from the Devil Clans makes a move, I'm afraid the bodiless celestials from the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land won't be able to sit still, right? Thinking of this, the Elder of Heavenly Secrets remembered another very important matter. Not good. Most of the bodiless celestials are gathered in the northern region. If they decide to fight the bodiless celestials from the devil clans here, we'll definitely be affected. Looks like I can only bring them to that hidden ice mountain valley. Lin Yun muttered to himself. With this thought in mind, the Oracle man no longer hesitated. He brought Duan Xiling, Gan Ru Yen, and Qing Hua away from the nameless snowy mountain and headed to the Iceberg Valley, where the Sword Saint secret zone was opened. After returning to the Iceberg Valley, the Oracle man and the others built temporary wooden houses in the valley for them to live in and cultivate. In the following month, a lot of major events took place. First, a group of bodiless celestials from the devil clans in the lower province repaired the cross-province teleportation formation in the shortest time possible, so the devil clans could enter the upper province steadily. As soon as they entered the upper province, they began a massacre. Apart from that, many bodiless celestials from the devil clans came to the upper province and fought with the bodiless celestials there. Compared to the bodiless celestials from the devil clans, the bodiless celestials from the upper province were slightly weaker. This was because the devil clans were naturally bloodthirsty and aggressive. Many human bodiless celestials were killed. Many bodiless celestials from the devil clans were killed as well. However, in general, more human bodiless celestials were killed. At this moment, 2 announcements were made. The 2 announcements spread out in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land. At the same time, it also entered the ears of the old prophet. The devil clans have 1 month to leave the Dao Martial Saint Land and return to the land of exile. Otherwise, the Phoenix clan will come out and annihilate the devil clans. At that time, there will be no turning back. If the devil clans don't leave the Dao Martial Saint Land within a month, they'll be the enemy of the dragons. The Phoenix clan and the dragons made the announcements one after another. The Phoenix clan? The people in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land could understand the strength of the dragons. After all, the dragons had shown their strength before the devil clans invaded the upper province. Not only did they have many bodiless celestials, but they even had 5 tribulation bodiless celestials and 7 tribulation bodiless celestials. As for the Phoenix clan, apart from the bodiless celestials in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land, who knew the Phoenix clan was not inferior to the dragons, most people were unaware of this. For this reason, most people were skeptical of the announcement made by the Phoenix clan. It was only when the bodiless celestials in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land spread the news that everyone in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land learned about this. As it turned out, in the upper province of the Dao Martial Saint Land, not only was the Dragon clan strong, but the Phoenix clan was strong as well. The Phoenix clan was a powerful force that was not inferior to the Dragon clan. There were many bodiless celestials in the Phoenix clan as well. I didn't expect the Phoenix clan to be so strong as well. As it turns out, the strongest force in the Dao Martial Saint Land isn't Zoroastrianism, Zhuangzi Buddhism, or the Heaven Divination sect. It's the dragons and the Phoenix clan that we thought were inferior to the 3 great sections. The dragons and the Phoenix clan have made their announcements. If the devil clans don't leave the Dao Martial Saint Land within a month, they'll make their move. The devil clans are so cruel and bloodthirsty. Do you think they'll leave just because of the dragons and the Phoenix clan? Although the dragons and the Phoenix clan had made their announcements and asked the devil clans to leave the Dao Martial Saint Land within a month, not many people thought the devil clans would listen to them and leave. If the devil clans were afraid of the dragons and the Phoenix clan, why would they enter the Dao Martial Saint Land? Were they stupid? In fact, it was just as most people thought. The devil clans did not care about the dragons and the Phoenix clan's announcements at all. A month later, a large number of bodiless celestials appeared among the dragons and phoenixes. When these bodiless celestials appeared, the people from the 3 great sects in the Dao Martial Saint Land, including the Zoroastrianism, the Zhuangzi Buddhism, and the Heaven Divination sect, were stunned. This was because the first batch of bodiless celestials sent out by the dragons and phoenixes were mostly the ancestors of the 3 great sections. Only then did they realize. It turned out that the 3 great sects had many loose immortal experts, but these loose immortal experts had all joined the dragons and phoenixes. Why? Why is that? Why would the loose immortals of Zoroastrianism seek refuge with the dragons and phoenixes? Why don't they stay in our Zhuangzi Buddhism and lead our Zhuangzi Buddhism to new glory? Instead, they are willing to be the dogs of the dragons and phoenixes, coming and going at their beck and call. The 3 great sects were in an uproar. They could not figure out why the ancestors of the 3 great sects, who were at the level of itinerant immortals, would join the Dragon clan and the Phoenix clan, and be willing to listen to the orders of the Dragon clan and the Phoenix clan. Moreover, when the devil clans invaded the upper province, they had taken the lead to fight for the dragons and phoenixes. They did not expect this at all. Now, it was not their wish for the itinerant immortal ancestors of the 3 great sects to come out and be cannon fodder. After all, who did not know that cannon fodder had a slim chance of survival? Under such circumstances, the ancestors of the 3 great sects had stepped forward, because if they were unwilling to fight for the dragons and phoenixes, they would definitely die. After all, the powerhouses of the dragons and phoenixes were not to be trifled with. If they did not fight for the dragons and phoenixes, they would definitely die. However, if they fought for the dragons and phoenixes, they would most likely die. Under such circumstances, they had no choice but to choose the latter. In a secluded ice mountain valley in the northern region. Although I've heard from the sect leader that bodiless celestials from the 3 great sects would be captured by the dragons and phoenixes, I didn't expect there to be so many bodiless celestials in the 3 great sects. Although the old man of heavenly secrets was located in a remote place in the northern region, he was still very familiar with the situation outside. He was in charge of the information network of the Red Dust Progeny, the 7th absolute of the 7 absolute sect. Ever since Han Shuanai's master had died, he had temporarily taken over the Red Dust Progeny's information network. Chapter 2399. However, who created this beyond heaven secret zone? There's a celestial supreme treasure here? Duan Lingtian raised his hand, and a sword appeared in his hand. The sword was crystal clear and flawless. From afar, it looked like a pool of spring water. It gave off a comfortable feeling. However, this ordinary-looking sword was a celestial supreme treasure. Although this sword is inferior to the Jasper celestial sword, it's still a genuine celestial supreme treasure. I didn't expect the first thing I obtained after entering the Beyond Heaven secret zone would be a celestial sword. With this celestial sword, the strength of my attacks has surpassed the strength of a 6 tribulation bodiless celestial. It should be comparable to a 7 tribulation bodiless celestial. Duan Lingtian thought to himself as he looked at the celestial sword in his hand. However, the strongest person among the two groups of people is only a 5 tribulation bodiless celestial. If there's a 6 tribulation bodiless celestial among them, I might not even be able to keep this celestial sword. The celestial sword in Duan Lingtian's hand could be said to be snatching food from a tiger's mouth. At that time, Duan Lingtian had met one of the groups of people and learned that they had found a treasure. For this reason, he had followed them and discovered that the celestial sword was a treasure. The treasure mentioned by those people was actually a celestial supreme treasure. Moreover, it was a celestial sword. If it was another celestial supreme treasure, it would not be of much help to Duan Lingtian. However, if it was a celestial sword, it would be of great help to Duan Lingtian. After all, Duan Lingtian was a sword cultivator, just like Feng Qingyang, since he had inherited the legacy from Sword Saint Feng Qingyang. The weapon of a sword cultivator was a sword. A sword was like a second life to a sword cultivator. If the sword lives, the man lives. If the sword dies, the man dies. Although these words were a little extreme, they perfectly explained the position of a sword in a sword cultivator's heart. To a sword cultivator, his sword was as important as his life. With Duan Lingtian's current strength, a sword from the mundane realm, even a super saint weapon, would not be of any help to him. Only a sword that was a celestial supreme treasure, or above, would be of help to him. For this reason, when Duan Lingtian discovered the treasure mentioned by those people was a celestial sword, he had already begun to think of a way to obtain it. He wanted to obtain the immortal sword. It just so happened that another group of people had arrived at this moment, and they wanted that immortal sword as well. It was even to the extent that they were in conflict with the group of people before them, and they even started fighting intensely without saying a single word. At this moment, Duan Lingtian struck like lightning. As soon as he made his move, he was like the Oriole behind the Oriole, grabbing the immortal sword. After obtaining the immortal sword, Duan Lingtian did not leave in a hurry. Instead, he stayed at the scene and observed the immortal sword in his hand. At this moment, the two groups of people had also stopped fighting. Their target was Duan Lingtian at the same time. After all, the reason they were fighting was because of the immortal sword. When they discovered the immortal sword was in the hands of a third party, there was no need for them to continue fighting, since it would only benefit the third party. Good sword. When Duan Lingtian confirmed the sword in his hand was indeed a celestial supreme treasure, he could not help but feel excited. At this moment, the two groups of people made their moves. Moreover, they did not hesitate to kill Duan Lingtian. Among the two groups of people, the two strongest were 5 tribulation bodiless celestials. Duan Lingtian thought to himself, perhaps, Senior Feng Qingyang had entered the Beyond Heaven secret zone and obtained a fortuitous encounter that allowed him to kill 8 tribulation bodiless celestials and fight 9 tribulation bodiless celestials when he was just an eminent celestial. When Duan Lingtian first learned about the Sword Saint's secret zone, he could not help but feel puzzled. The sovereign heart sword left behind by Senior Feng Qingyang had transcended the mundane realm. However, even if one completely comprehended the 5 stages of the sovereign heart sword, one's strength would, at most, be comparable to a 5 tribulation bodiless celestial. How was Senior Feng Qingyang able to kill 8 tribulation bodiless celestials and fight 9 tribulation bodiless celestials when he was just an eminent celestial? Duan Lingtian could not figure it out no matter how hard he thought about it. If Senior Feng Qingyang had any other means up his sleeves, that would be too ridiculous, right? Was he still human? However, now that he knew the Beyond Heaven secret zone was left behind by Senior Feng Qingyang, he could not help but wonder. He could not help but speculate. Perhaps, Senior Feng Qingyang had also entered the Beyond Heaven secret zone and obtained a fortuitous encounter. The more Duan Lingtian thought about it, the more certain he became. In fact, Duan Lingtian was right. I didn't think there would be people from 4 mundane realms who entered the Beyond Heaven secret zone apart from the people around me. Moreover, there are many bodiless celestials among the people from the other mundane realms. Based on what the last person said before he was killed, there were at least 100 bodiless celestials from the mundane realm he was in. There were at least 100 bodiless celestials. When that person's words entered Duan Lingtian's ears, Duan Lingtian's heart could not help but tremble. Although he might be able to fight a 7 tribulation bodiless celestial now that he had obtained the celestial sword. However, who could say for sure among the 100 bodiless celestials? Was there anyone among them who had mastered the soul congregation embodiment? It was common knowledge that the body of a bodiless celestial was formed from the soul and the body's energy. The body's energy had to be stabilized by the soul at all times. For this reason, it was impossible for bodiless celestials to cast soul attacks as easily as they did in the past. After becoming a bodiless celestial, if one rashly cast a soul attack, one might die. This was unless one had mastered the soul congregation embodiment. The so-called soul congregation embodiment was a dharma body that only those who were extremely skilled in soul techniques before becoming bodiless immortals would have a chance to cultivate after becoming bodiless immortals. Once one had mastered the soul congregation embodiment, one would be able to cast soul attacks as they wished. There was no need to worry about dying if one rashly cast soul attacks like ordinary bodiless celestials. There are so many bodiless celestials. It's not impossible for 1 or 2 of them to have mastered the soul congregation embodiment. Duan Lingtian could not help but inwardly gasp when he thought about this. If a bodiless celestial who had mastered the soul congregation embodiment technique, even a 3 tribulation bodiless celestial, would be able to severely injure his soul before he could kill him. If it was a 4 tribulation bodiless celestial who had mastered the soul congregation embodiment technique, his soul wouldn't be able to withstand it. Perhaps his current strength was not bad,